we have you on here, yeah. Motivational. I agree with everything.
I hated getting relegated. Please don't get relegated. It's the worst feeling in the world.
Okay, now
I'm
you're
praying for all the homies.
You're putting the pressure
No,
back on.
I'm praying
again.
for the homies, man. I'm praying for all the homies.
What's going on, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Salt Mine. This is Season 3, Episode 9, and we are coming in with our last episode of the split, officially. It will be done with the split on Monday. As soon as that gets played out, there will still be promotion tournament and stuff, and ACL, so we'll be back next week. Shout out once again to Aegis for sponsoring the show. But I'm Gordo, Slayer's on here today, and we are joined by special guest Sneezes, former coach of Team Fish Taco, current coach of Oklahoma Christian, former coach of Wildcard Dev, and promotion tournament expert. Sneezes, thanks so much.
Yeah, definitely. And I gotta say, Gordo, I got a little bone to pick on this because I didn't realize this was the last episode. Is this the second podcast in a split that I'm relegating, bro? Like, what's going on?
At most,
no. I know. I'm just messing with you. I know it's not the last forever. Yeah.
Sneezes did kill Interstellar Radio.
I did.
I forgot about that. He was on the last episode of that show. Hopefully,
I absolutely did. Yeah, sorry in advance about your podcast.
We'll see.
Oh no!
If we can survive this, we can survive anything. But we got a chock.
That's what I thought about the promotion tournament.
We're starting off hot.
All right. Well, I'm excited for some promotion tournament stories, if nothing else, because that's one of the things we've got to talk about. We got a chock-full episode this week. We'll chat a bit about the playoffs so far. We'll chat about the upcoming final on Monday, which will be between FlyQuest Challengers and Maryville University. Spoiler alert for those of you who learn the results through this show, I suppose. And then we're going to talk about the promotion tournament. This is also going to be our promotion tournament primer. I got a bone to pick with Riot Scheduling, who aren't paying attention to the most important group in their community, podcasters. By scheduling both the promotion tournament and the finals like a day apart from each other, so these can't be separate episodes like they traditionally have been. But that's okay. We'll make it through it. We'll have a reasonably length episode, and we'll see where we go from there. But let's open things up first before we get into all that promotion nonsense. Before we get into Aegis, we will chat about the playoffs so far. So, guys, we kicked off the week with the lower bracket round 2. That was DSG taking a 2-1 over AoE and Maryville taking a 2-1 over Fear. Not looking to spend too long on these matches, but anything in particular stand out to you guys? Let's blow through these. Let's get some takes going, and then we'll move on to some of the beefier best of 5 matches.
Yeah, I could start. I think AoE was rocky for a lot of the season, but they really did turn it on in playoffs. I know it looks rough on their, schedule. They lost to FlyQuest. Spoiler, almost didn't lose to FlyQuest, and then, took down Wildcard and then lost to DSG. But I think they were pretty dangerous in the playoffs. It was unfortunate they lost that first round. They could have taken Fear in that next round, and then we'd be talking about them in the top 4, right? So it was just really unfortunate that first series, but I want to give them props. They leveled up a lot towards the end of the season, and hopefully some of those guys can find good spots in summer. I know it probably didn't end the way they wanted, but I think it was clear that they were a dangerous team that you had to take seriously in the playoffs.
I agree. When it comes to DSG, I kind of just think they finally got to play the way they wanted to play League of Legends games, and is that easy enough of a cop-out for the entirety of the regular season? Not necessarily, but it was just nice to see that you finally had Perry kind of be able to do what we saw him do very well in the early games when it came to his time on Fear. I feel like he was able to dictate a lot of the pace, and part of that was I finally, especially against AoE, feel like we got to see Tenacity kind of like take over top lane a bit and like have some success up there. Markedly, his Aatrox game up against Zamudo was very big. In that game number 3, he ends up going 7-1-4 up against Zamudo's like Rumble, which is kind of like a Zamudo pick among when we talk about that guy. So we talked about, coming into the primer for the NACL, it's like, listen, this is where Tenacity's got to like really show that he's good enough to go back up to the LCS. And while he definitely, I don't think did that, at least we got to see some like Tenacity where it's like, oh, this is the guy people were hyping up for a very long time.
Yeah. I want to shout out, I think I highlighted last week on the show that I thought this Fear MU match was like one that I was really excited for. And something I highlighted there was like, I thought it could be like a big like prove it moment for Toasty. Like if if he was gonna pop off and be like demonstrating his status as like this top tier NA mid laner, the next big NA mid laner in the league, it would be by being able to show up and perform really well against Spyrax there. I don't think he quite did it, but I think his game 2 Orianna was super sick, was really big in Fear's ability to actually come back. And I want to give him a lot of credit there. He's not quite there yet, but he's somebody that you really need to have your eyes on coming into the next split. I'm really excited to see how much further he's going to be able to grow. And, rough matchup up against Maryville, right? If you don't play Maryville in lower bracket round 2, I think Fear can make a deeper run. But, it's how the bracket shook out, right? A lot of teams peaked at the right time, and a lot of really good teams ended up in that lower bracket.
I think Toasty had a really good rookie season in NACL. It's so hard for a mid laner to come in and play. The game is a lot faster. There's a lot more pressure on mid, and with the map changes coming into this spring, mid lane got a lot less safe. It's easier to dive. It's more open. These immobile mages that Toasty has been preferring, the Orianna, the Nico, if he got behind, it's like very easy to punish, right? From an enemy team perspective, support can get unlocked on roams, jungle can dive over walls and stuff. It's really tough to play mid your first split in NACL. We've seen a lot of good mid laners come in and struggle when they're like really dominant in OQs, and then their first split in NACL is just really tough. I think Toasty performed well above expectations, had a great split. And if you just look at their playoff opponents, right? Good set against Wildcard, and then they had to play FlyQuest and Maryville back to back. It's just, these are our finalists. Like, I know Fear probably, I know Toasty's probably kicking himself for, how the season ended, but they played against the top 2 teams, and so you could argue there's a world where that's the third best team, right? I'm really proud of Toasty. I wish he'd gotten a shot sooner, and I'm glad he showed up, this split and just showed he deserves to be an NACL.
Yeah. And I want to highlight like Fear more broadly as well, in a split where I think there was a lot of discourse about it's so risky to start rookies, right? Like, if you're not promoting in as a rookie, it's so dangerous to like start them on your team when everybody's so worried about relegations. And I think he showed up like really, really well. He and Daption both as like rookies to NACL. And like I think Fear hopefully have set a little bit of a blueprint for how you're supposed to play this out going forward, like being able to surround some rookies with some like established veterans and be able to find success that way in this league. I hope is a jumping off point for other teams going forward, and makes it makes more folks more willing to bring in new faces into the league who maybe haven't had those shots before.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up Daption, because I think he's the other guy that really impressed me when you look at, like holistically at Fear's year. I know I talked about him back on the All-Pro teams because he was able to play a lot of like really unique picks and make them work. Like he was playing Heimerdinger support in like 2024, which is like not. I don't think it's been viable since like the start of 2023 season when people were running those like Heimerdinger Ashe or Heimerdinger Jhin bottom lanes out of the LCK. He is a rookie, right, coming up here, but if we're playing the old esports age game, like Daption is 22, so like that's not what you consider like the rookie age at this point of the level. I'm just really happy that I've seen him come in, and alongside Lens, I think they were we've talked about before, one of the sneakier, better bottom lanes. They had a really good, it's Jinx Lulu, right? Like how much skill expression is Daption going to get on Lulu in a game? But the Jinx Lulu worked really well and was really the big reason why they took a game off Maryville and they were up against Scary Jerry and Zyko of all people this year. So they've shown flashes they can be very good together. I was very impressed by Daption, who I think could very easily end up turning into one of those like rookies turn like leadership, like that rock you look for as a support. now that he's shown that he like mechanically can play up to the par of these like tier 2 level NA supports. He's already got the like veterancy about him that he's been through so much at the lower level trying to get up here. He's seen a lot. He's kind of already been a veteran of that way. I'm very impressed, and I think the future is very bright for Daption alongside Toasty.
Definitely.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Daption's a homie. He was great. That was his personality on TFT, right? Last spring when I worked with him, that he's very chill, very even-tempered, objective, really smart. You know, I was super happy he had opportunity as well and made the most of it.
That's the best archetype for a support right there.
Yeah, I've been high on him since Wildcard Red, because that team was so friggin' ridiculous, and he was the only one who hadn't really gotten that chance at the next level at this prior to this split. So yeah, really happy to see him up here as well, and what he's been able to make happen. So, moving on, we had DSG against MU came up next on the docket, and this was a tight 5-game series. The reverse sweep from Maryville. It felt like... I'm kind of curious at your guys' thoughts here, because DSG, it felt like they had their stride going for like 2.5 games, and then it just like slipped away from them, and Maryville eventually just started like actually being able to snowball the early games all the way through. Like they had early game leads earlier in the series that they just weren't able to hang on to, and ended up letting come back to DSG. But MU just started to take over towards the end, and I like Niles especially towards the end, right? Like that was
definitely
something if you had asked me preseason, like, yeah, Maryville is going to take down DSG in a tight 5-game series, and it's going to be because of Niles gapping Tenacity, I would have called you a liar. But it really happens, man. I mean, like, remember Tenacity was the future of NA top lane, and Niles just shows up. I'm the past of NA top lane, and he's demolishing him. He was so good.
Well,
yeah.
Go ahead, Slayer. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna quickly say, not to toot my own horn a little bit too much here, but I knew the series was going 5 games after game 3, because that game 3, like Maryville just woke up, and it wasn't even close. I mean, how often are you seeing the other 80 carry finish 0-4-0 in a game? Like that's when you know you smashed a game. Like Manui did not get to play game 3. It was not fair, and I think that was the quickest game of that entire series. And just to like see Maryville like bounce back after those other 2 games, especially if we're talking about just the bot side, Manui had his smolder game of like he had a smolder pop off game. So specifically to see the bot side, like Scary Jerry and Zyko along with MU bounce back really heavily in game 3, like that was the moment where I'm like, all right, this is a different Maryville team. Like I know we saw them do so well in the regular season. Like they've been great. They've been playing at a higher level, but like playoffs, no matter you're talking sports, esports, like they're a different breed, right? There are many teams that in regular sports that have a persona of, oh yeah, they can be great in the regular season, but playoffs, they always choke. And that thought was in the back of my head about Maryville, especially when they were kind of slipping a little bit earlier. But the way they responded in game 3, I was like, all right, this team's legit. Like this is the team that we've been hyping up. They're gonna at least push this to a game 5, and I was pretty confident they were gonna come back all the way back. And it's just cool to see them like, I don't know, get all those proverbial like past failures, whatever you want to call them, off their back and like rise out of the ashes as a fiery phoenix, if you want to throw a metaphor out there.
So my read on Maryville in this series especially, it's like 2-3 things. Number 1, BO5 is a really good filter in League of Legends. It's very hard for the worst team to win a BO5. You can cheese a BO1, you can do a crazy invade, you can get a crazy draft, you can flip a Baron, right? You can win 1 game, you can maybe cheese out a BO3. You got a red side draft, a blue side draft. We do this invade, whatever, but cheesing out a BO5 is really hard. The better team almost always wins the BO5, and with Fearless, that is even more so. I think Fearless had a huge impact on this series. I'm so happy we have it in NACL, and I legit don't think Maryville pull this out without Fearless. I think if all the champions are up, DSG's first couple games formula was very, very clean, but Maryville was deeper. And having those champion pools and being able to play a little different style and to deny what DSG did to get the first 2 leads and then play it out on the, in theory, harder matchups with less champions available for yourself really shows the value of Fearless and how the better team will overcome, right? The last point I want to make is the inherent advantage a school program like Maryville has over an org like DSG in this kind of scenario, right? This roster has been together for a long time. They know each other really well. They have an intact staff that is heavily involved. They have standards of conduct. They have a dedicated facility that they're in every day. They live near each other. They eat together. They talk together, right? Like all those little advantages that you have from being in person on site in a structured environment. I think that also helped them not explode after the 0-2, right? It's so easy to let the voices win, to let, you know, oh man, maybe we're not that good creep in. But when you have the structure and the systems and you have the habits and you know, like, hey guys, it's 3 games, we can do it, you know, and you look to your left and you look to your right and everybody's locked in, like, I think it really shows the model for Maryville, it's working, right? This was a really big defining series for them. Big props to them, right? It was nothing against DSG. They could have taken it too, and we'd be having a different conversation, but they didn't. And so I think it's appropriate to call out the program that they've built over there and why they're getting these kind of results, right?
Reach. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's definitely true. And it's part of the reason that I'm like kind of coming around a little bit more on Collegiate's future in Tier 2 as the kind of bedrock of Tier 2 as more and more orgs start to exit, just especially that like continuity of coaching staff, I think, and like the ability to have, you know, really experienced coaches and stuff not getting wrapped up in the rat race of like trying to make LCS and like having, you know, a stable position, you know, with a salary and everything at a university is, I think, really huge, as well as we'll talk about once we get into promotion tournament too, with a couple of collegiate teams featured there. Let's talk about Fly Challengers versus TLC just really quick. I know that series was technically played before the others, but that we've already talked about. But that one is a 3-1 for Fly Challengers. Like, I guess this is the opportunity to check in on Fly Challengers, right? How dominant is this team really? Can anybody, like, do they look beatable from this series up against TLC? Like, I feel like it really shows just how multifaceted they are, and I think, you know, having looked at this series and having looked at TL's series against Maryville, I think it also, like, highlights a little bit that TL felt a little bit more limited. Like, I feel like if they weren't playing, like, Spawn Callista lanes, they felt a lot weaker as a team when they didn't get to, like, play through. I think that in particular, right? Like, Romer Ziggs was a big part of that as well, and, like, him being on Poke Champions. But, like, I think they kind of zeroed in on that identity, and once again, I think Fearless kind of started to bite them as they got into these BO5s, and they couldn't really fall back on the few strategies that were working.
Definitely. You know, Spawn had a great Callista game, to your point. Maybe they could have found some other champions to index that early game power. But Spawn traditionally has been like a late game team fight AD. So it's unfortunate. I thought a couple weeks ago the meta was turning towards TLC's favor, and it kind of did, right? They beat Supernova, they beat DSG. You know, they were you know, competitive. They were still in the upper bracket when they played FlyQuest, right? So they had a good run. I think FlyQuest is just, you know, really good, and it's unfortunate that when you spent, it's felt like TLC spent a lot of time solving problems this season, and I don't want to speculate on their internals or anything like that, but just from the way that they changed up their strategies, you know, they weren't playing a lot of Callista, then they're heavily going to Callista, right? It sounded like they just needed to find an identity and play, but by the time you're in playoffs, it's like it's too late. You kind of have to win everything, to like be top 2. You know, you kind of have to be a little good at everything and at least have enough in your toolkit to try a few different styles out successfully, right? And And look, I think they're third overall, right?
Yep.
So it's not bad. It's not, I'm sure that the players wanted more, but it's not like this team bombed out of playoffs, right? I don't want to paint the picture like they had a disappointing season. Where did they finish? Like 4th, 5th in regular season, somewhere in there. They finished 6th.
Yeah, they were.
Finished
I was gonna
6th
say.
regular season and ended playoffs 3rd. So, I consider that a good run. It's just BO5 is hard and BO5 Fearless even harder. So, overall good season. It seemed like they figured it out in playoffs, and maybe if they figured out a week or two sooner, then they can go further. But they still went pretty far. So props to everyone over there.
Yeah, I think you made one of the great points you made there at the end. There is for what we're learning the most about Fearless BO5s is like if you don't have I would go as far as say if you don't only have an identity figured out, if you don't have multiple identities figured out for BO5s, like you're not going to end up in this grand final, which in my mind is really damn cool. Like this is like
it's really cool.
It's just so good for League of Legends. And I'm glad that like you on the coach side also agree. Like there's nobody like because obviously like we're like the media community streamers, podcasters, whatever we're called. Like we can have one opinion, but at the end, like my opinion on Fearless, I don't think should ever matter more than like somebody like you sneezes. So I'm just glad
I talked to a lot of coaches, and I'm not the best coach, right? Like I'm a bit of a contrarian on this topic, right? I know there are LCS coaches that are probably rolling their eyes to hear me say that, right? Because what they're looking for, is a player that's really defined in their skill set so that you know what they can and can't do on the LCS stage. And then you have the understanding of where you need to develop them. For me, in this space, I want to see our challenger players be tested week on week harder than LCS players. I think putting more constraints on your champion pools and what you need to learn and how the game works is better for long-term growth. People will disagree with me. I know I'm a bit of a contrarian on this, but I think hopefully we can maintain the system for a couple of years. And in 2 and 3 years, you'll see even better players coming to the LCS as a result, because the only way we're going to revitalize the talent pool is coming through a league like this and making it harder so that someone like Toasty, someone like Tenacity can come back into LCS and say like, oh, wow, this is easier. I can pick my good champions every time. Like, thank God. So for me, I really like that. I know I'm not the majority opinion on coaches. And if you're, and my opinion might change if I was working for an LCS org, right? Like everyone has different interests and different, KPIs. I'm not going to get fired if an LCS team does badly, right? Like already been fired. So it's, it's all G. So it's nice to be like free to have that opinion, right? Like I empathize with the position that coaches and GMs are in, trying to bring in new players. It's very difficult. I do think it's good for the space that Challengers is more difficult on paper than LCS.
I also think and I don't know how long it's going to take, right? I think it's probably a couple of years out, but I think eventually more and more of the ecosystem will move to Fearless. Like I think Riot's...
Fearless Worlds. I tweeted it. Please,
yeah, like,
please, Riot.
I think Riot's a little too indie.
On, Mark.
I've been around from the beginning, man. I was here in 2011. I just know when Riot starts to get that worm in their head, it's real hard for anybody to talk them out of it.
2025. I'm gonna call it 2025. Fearless Worlds.
All right.
Fearless Worlds.
I think 25 is a little. I would say like 26 maybe, but either way, like it'll take a couple of years, but I think it's coming. Like they are adding it to more leagues. They are not subtracting it from leagues. Like they are into this concept. They are trialing it in more leagues as more time goes on. Like it's not going to stop here. Like I don't think. And it's not going poorly, by the way, right? Like LDL does not dislike it. I think generally the reception of it has been pretty good in NACL. We're 2 for 2 on successful implementations. I don't think they're gonna go, we don't like it anymore. Like they're gonna keep rolling this out. It's gonna keep coming. I think at some point by the time I think a lot of this next generation is in LCS, that might be Fearless too.
There's a ton of champions, and you need a way to deepen the champion pools in a series, right? Do we really want to see World Finals of Caitlyn Varus, Caitlyn Varus, Caitlyn Varus, Caitlyn Varus, Ashe, right? Like, is that really what we want? I think I want to see someone picking Heimerdinger. I want to see, Sona Seraphine. I want to see goofy stuff by Game 5 of World's Finals. Like, the only thing I don't like, the only tweak I might make for Worlds, that my olive branch, this is my prey to Riot on this, is give me like per person Fearless, which might be too hard to implement, but I like flex picks. I like when Gragas and Cassante are broken. I think it's cool for drafting. But if you only get to pick Cassante once, then do you put him top or mid, right? I think you should be able to pick it twice, but a different player has to play it. I think it'd be really cool that you slam Cassante, you got a flex pick, I put it mid the first game, then I slam it the second game, it has to go top, right? Or like support or something if you're a psycho. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That would be my like, hey, let's add some value back into flex picks, because flex picks get significantly less value in a Fearless, series. So maybe add value, let only a player play that champion once. Right? So you can pick it, but it's got to go to somebody else.
Yeah. I mean that would make drafts with Maokai a lot more fun. I mean, recently I'm thinking like Zac drafts would be a lot more fun right now.
If you're really spicy, you just sign 2 ADCs and then swap support, so you can play Varus twice.
There you go.
Let's do it.
I can get into it.
I'm down. All right. Well, that takes us to TLC versus Maryville, which was a quick 3-0 for Maryville. Close-ish game number 1, if I recall correctly. Let me skim through my notes here real quick. Yeah, that was definitely a closer one. Like Spyrex, Yone, and Scary Jerry Varus scaling up became like super huge in that game number 1. Then game number 2, TL somehow managed to lose like a 51-minute Smolder game. And
crazy.
I think they're boom after that. Like, I think it is.
Yeah, it's tough.
It's tough. That is a tough experience to have. I mean, I think MVP of that game is once again Niles on his Niles Aatrox is something different, man. Like that's something for FlyQuest to take note of. Is like Niles' Aatrox is just absolutely ridiculous on the flanks. Like the fact that he is able to keep that much pressure on the Smolder to win a 51-minute game against that champion pre-nerf is just ridiculous.
Yeah, crazy. My bit with it again is like, if I'm the staff of Maryville and I see that tweet that goes out that's like, hey, we're doing finals in LA, the easiest thing in the world to get my guys motivated and ready to run through a brick wall, I print out 5 plane tickets and just put it on the desk, right? Like, there's no way you can have these guys in person and know that, hey, we're going to get to go to LA twice this year because we're going to NACL finals and probably CLL finals as well, right?
Yep.
Hey, you guys want an extra trip to LA? Let's just run through these guys real fast. So I think Maryville was really motivated. I think clutching out that Smolder game probably did, pop TLC's bubble a little bit. But yeah, it's just, we kind of knew this was the finals to begin with. I think they had a good run in the lower bracket. Maryville easily could have ended their run a lot sooner, if like the Fear series goes differently or the DSG series, right? So I think they were just done with close calls and said, F it, let's 3-0. And they seems like they have it figured out. It seems like they know what they want to play, and they're really confident and really driven.
I do want to, the one thing to kind of circle back to that identity talk, because I think that's like a really important thing to take away from these BO5s is I was impressed again by Maryville because I think they showed a different like mask. Specifically, I think they did it through Yuji, because like when we talk about Yuji historically, right? Like, and I mentioned a couple of times, like back in the regular season, I have his match history pulled up, like looking at some of his, like he had those classic like Viego games where he'd go like 7-0-3 and just gap teams. He had like a nasty Lee Sin where like he could just carry. And you think of Yuji as that's how I used to think about Yuji. He was like that carry jungle player. But in that TLC series, he played Rel, he played Xin. Also, rest in peace, Rel Jungle. I guess that was the send off on that one. And then Poppy, right, to counter a Kindred pick. So he goes like 0-2-20 on that Rel pick. I think, Gordo, you point out like the scaling was really big in that game. You go 0-2-20 on Jungle Rel. That's like a disgusting Rel Jungle game in my mind. Like 2 deaths and 20 is disgusting. So the fact that like this just speaks to like how I think UG is also ready to get up out of NACL is that he's doing all this on these supportive jungle picks. Like they're like Maryville is able to win, telling UG to go play supportive Rel jungle, and they'll have Scary Jerry and the rest Spirax scale up. But then whenever
Niles,
Maryville, Niles, but whenever they want to, I'm pretty confident in this finals they're gonna try it. They're gonna have UG just slam a Viego game. Maybe he'll lock in like a Lee Sin, and then they'll just let him try and carry
the Kindred too. Yep.
The Kindred,
Yep,
right?
the Kindred.
Like, and then at that point you go, if UG can play those carries just as well he's been playing like the supportive ones against TLC. Obviously it's FlyC, it's a different team, but how can you really doubt Maryville in a 5-game series? Because right now they've shown me enough identity that I think they could play very different styles and be successful. FlyC is the only team where I would honestly be like, maybe they can't do it against them, and that's what makes this final so fun.
Definitely. And I think FlyC has also shown a good variety in their styles too, right? Like we are seeing the deeper teams here trickle up. Like even TLC, not the best regular season, but had some interesting picks, right? Didn't we get the Kiel Nunu in playoffs, right?
He did play.
I think these two experienced teams in finals having interesting picks and being able to switch it up a little bit is gonna make it a banger series, right? The regular season series was a mega banger, right? Like I think Maryville just got a little too hasty on their final engage, and they baited it out, and FlyQuest baited it out really well and re-engaged, right? So I think it's gonna go 5 games. It's gonna be close. I think both teams are really polished. Like maybe like who gets leads, right? Who gets leads in the series? You could say last series Maryville TLC, Niles can get a lead here. We have the confidence to play Rel Jungle because Scary Jerry Zyko are gonna like win bot lane, But did they get that lead against FlyQuest? How does Surdy do against Niles, right? Like there's some interesting questions, and I think it'll be, how do you play against Quad? Like how?
That's been a question people have been trying to answer all season.
It'll be big. I think it's going to come down to team fights, game plan. I want to see some fun invades. I want to see, different ways to get a lead. Like it'll probably be fist fighty, and then it'll chill, and then it'll be fist fighty again, right? Like these teams don't want to lose to each other, but land buff is real, stage fright is real. It's a different animal on stage. It's like a totally different game. It feels way faster in person. So, I'm excited. I'm really excited. This is probably the ideal finals as well for the league. If you're thinking about like viewership and hype and players that can get promoted, how many all pros do we have in this finals, right? Like,
well, it depends what all-pro team you're asking about, because there might be different number for the salt mine ones versus the real ones now.
Probably a lot. I think all of them. I think the whole first team was Maryville and FlyQuest.
Yeah.
They even stuck like Niles in a third team, which I was not willing to do on my list. So.
Nor was I.
Yeah.
But hey.
Yeah, I think they were. I'm fairly sure. I think everybody from both teams was somewhere on the top 3 for the official.
Yeah, I think all 10 were in there.
I'm pretty sure they were all in the official. They're not as brave as us here, where I think everybody left at least somebody off.
I'm trying to get a job in the summer, so I didn't do a list.
Yeah, I left off. I left off Sajet as well. I took a lot of crap for that.
Yes, you do. You did. Yep.
Yeah, he didn't have to do much the regular season. He was just chilling. Although I do think he's had some really big pop-ups in playoffs, though.
He had a good set again in the first Maryville series. I think, if he has a good series, that's like the key for FlyQuest, right? Like
100%.
We know Quad's good. We know Surdy's good. We know Jungle v Jungle is really cracked, right? But Scare Jerry, Sajed. That's the question mark.
That is
100%.
And
the bot lane will be really interesting for sure. I do want to say, just while Slayer was highlighting UG games in that TLC series, I would highlight the Poppy game in game number 3, especially when
that
they're able
one
to
was.
secure Soul. Like the TF Poppy ults are a combo I've never seen before, but Niles
oh
pops
yeah,
the
yeah,
TF
the
ult,
big
so they
ults.
can all
Oh
see
my
Destiny.
god.
Yeah.
They
Right.
and like UG's just walking at them with Poppy ult channeling, and they're just walking away because this
Just
is
hit
an
4 or
interaction
5
every
man
player
max
in League of
range.
Legends
Yeah.
has had a million
Yeah.
times. So just Poppy's channeling ult, just walk away. Surely she's not going to flash and throw it at 3 of us, and UG does it and punts out 3 people, and it gets a Dragon Soul and wins them the game. It's absolutely nuts.
And see, even tanks have skill expression.
True.
Yeah, true. I just knew when they locked in Poppy to Keel's Kindred, I was like, man, Keel's gonna hate playing this game. I just
yeah.
think Poppy versus Kindred in the jungle. If you trust the person playing Poppy, they're gonna make the other guy's game a living hell. And who doesn't trust UG right now, right? So yeah. But quickly to circle back, as we kind of been talking about finals. Another thing I want to shout out everybody who is going, but another reason that the stage buff is going to be a bigger thing, that Sneeze has pointed out, is that NACL finals they might actually, by the point this debuts, be sold out. So
I'm pretty sure they are.
Really?
yeah, so it's gonna be a
Hell yeah.
crowd environment. Yeah, so you're not just gonna
Let's
get the
go.
stage buffs, it's gonna be like the crowd buffs. There's gonna be a lot of people in Riot Games Arena too. So shout out to everybody at home that got tickets to that.
Huge shout out to whoever changed the scheduling, by the way. Finals were gonna be at 1 p.m. local time on a Friday. And that stage that theater was gonna be empty, bro. So
Yeah.
great choice moving
I'm just gonna thank Cubby. I don't know if Cubby had anything to do with it, but shout out Cubby.
Yeah.
Thank you.
maybe
Whatever you did there, thank you. Great job.
Yeah.
Keep it up.
Gordo, did we shout out Cubby because we figured out he was the? Did you guys shout him out last week for
We
getting
did,
us
'cause
on
he was the one who
okay?
brought us on the promo, or at least so
Yeah.
we think. Yeah, nobody's
Yeah,
ever.
we've been told.
He liked the tweet. I think that means he claimed ownership.
Yeah, well, he told me. He told me it was.
Oh, okay, well then there we go.
Yeah, yeah.
I think
Cubby,
we
yeah.
allegedly we shouted out allegedly Cubby, but
Well, now we can shout him out for what Caesar said, and for how he helped us out. So, to talk about predictions, I think we're ready for that with the
Oh, yeah.
finals.
so
I am solely predicting 5 games because it has to be right. Like it has to.
It's
be.
5 games. It's 5.
It has to be. Like I will be
100%.
disappointed if it's not 5 games.
Me too. Me too.
Now what team? I don't know.
You don't know?
Oh boy. I have a hunch, but I don't know very much. I think I'm leaning Maryville.
Really? Really?
I
Lower bracket.
I
You think what's the pitch? Sell me on Maryville. I want to hear it.
So I think Maryville. It goes back to you talking about
This
being
is
in
my
that
podcast
arena.
now.
Yeah. No. Hey, I love it. You're gonna challenge me directly here. I think that the fact that Maryville have played together as 5 for so long, they've been at that stage together for so long. I think that they, as a group, are going to perform better at LAN on stage together, where they all have been there before. Then once it gets to that 5th game, I think like they're going to pull it out, because there are guys on FlyQuest who have been playing otherworldly, right? But like Quad hasn't played on stage like in North America, like he's never played in this realm. As much as I love Sajin, I think he's going to be a amazing player for the future of North America. Has not played in LA in the Riot Games Arena on stage. Like the only guys that have done that are like Shaden, Chime for sure, and then I believe Surdy because of the EG
He did it
run,
last year.
technically, right? He did it last
Mhm.
year, right? But I mean, like we're talking about their AD in their mid lane. I feel like it's not crazy to say one. I hate saying it. I feel like one of those 2 guys might get a little bit shaken up by the whole different environment, and that gives enough edge for me to pick MU. But
So I'm gonna go Fly. And so Gordo, you're just
Yeah.
gonna have to moderate because we're gonna have a fist fight here. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah, that's
That's
perfect.
I'm gonna go Fly, and I have a couple counterpoints. Number 1, I'm pretty sure Quad is in LA. I'm pretty sure he's with
Right.
FlyQuest at their facility, and my guess is that he's been around the LCS team. So I would discount nerves and stage nerves with him because he's more in the environment than you might think from an NACL team that's usually going to be remote this split, right? Second, FlyQuest have the 2 best solo laners in Quad and Surdy. And while I think Maryville's solo laners have both had great splits and had their moment, I think it's very hard to win a BO5 when the solo laners are 2 of the best players in their role. I think that's like usually there's a reason Faker is Faker, right? Like it's very difficult. And then lastly, I am a little biased. I like Maryville a lot. I've sung their praises, here and elsewhere. But Rocco, their FlyQuest Challengers coach, actually took time out of his day to sit down with my collegiate guys and give them a little seminar about how they approach practice and scrims and some things like that were really helpful to us. And so I have a little loyalty there with him donating some of his extra time to help us out when he didn't have to do that, right? So I would just feel bad rooting against them, even though I think they're the best and they're probably going to win. I feel like I owe it to them a little bit to shout them out here, say thank you, and just say, like, give them hell, fellas. So I think FlyQuest, I'm going to say 3-2 just because I want 5 games. But I think you could see a 3-1, but a very competitive 3-1. My heart says Maryville because I think it would be a really cool collegiate story. But my head says FlyQuest. I think pound for pound, they're a little bit better. And I don't think they're going to get shook too much by the environment change because it's not a huge change for their key players.
Yeah. All fair points. I'm still going to stick to my guns. It's safe. I'm not going to come back down.
So
Gordo, you're the tiebreaker.
I know. I'm going to violate my neutrality here. And I'm on Fly 3-2.
No, Switzerland, please.
Yeah, I'm on Fly 3-2. I would also add to Sneeze's point about Quad is like Quad's got like 100 games played in Lol Park. Like I think he'll be.
Yeah.
Like I think this is like. I don't know if I don't know the guy, right? Who knows how he really.
I would be shocked if Quad isn't getting LCS consideration. So I think this is like his final audition, and it could be even for some of these other players,
pressure,
right?
Right.
So it could
add some pressure, definitely, because I think he's old enough that LCK is probably kind of done with him, unless he does something crazy in another region. That's just kind of how it is. Like we had a long talk with Kelsey Moser about this on Interstellar Radio back at the beginning of the season. That like, for better or for worse, and all the complaints about age discrimination in North American law, especially, are I think justified. Like I think there's no reason that an older player can't get better and have that debut. But the thing about the LPL and the LCK is they have such a plentiful pool of young talent that they just don't need to mess around with older players. They just, I think it's just from a pure efficiency standpoint, they don't need to go back and give Quad another chance. And they probably aren't really interested in giving him another chance even in like Academy. So, from that perspective, right, this is like an important audition for him in that sense. But I do also think, like, I don't know, if I'm Quad, I'm kind of like chilling. Like in this,
I don't think the outcome matters unless it's like very bad for him, right? But he hasn't had a bad game all season. Like he's just playing super well. So
he's just so consistently good. I think him starting in the summer or not is a question of whether or not FlyQuest are willing to part with him. More than anything else. Like, and then next year the offers will come rolling in. Yeah, like I think he's definitely proven himself at this level very, very handedly, and is well equipped to be able to close out from there. Like I think he's very comfortable. I think across the board the team, it just feels stronger for FlyQuest. I think Maryville's key to this will be the bottom lane, and not just Scary Jerry up against the Jed, but I also think like I had Zyko over Chime in my All Pro. Like I have been so blown away by Zyko this year. Like I think if they could like take that one step and like show up here against Chime and Sajed, that'll be so huge for them, and it's something I would really love to see. And it's critical for Maryville to be able to make it. Like the things that Maryville needs to happen is like Niles needs to be able to survive Surdy, Spyrax needs to be able to survive quad, and like neither of those are guarantees. And like I think Scary Jerry and Zyko are like the most likely to win, and they'll need them to win.
Yeah, this is so. My brands are colliding with this final. I don't like it. I've been the Chime capper for so long that he shouldn't even be here. Now I'm picking against him. I also, because you kind of threw out your personal bias in why you're picking FlyQuest, I do have some personal bias in why I'm picking Maryville. Because UG always tweets about how he goes. I'm a gym bro as well. I don't know how many people know it, but UG always tweets that he goes in the gym after he plays MU games, and I quote, or I responded to him on Twitter as like, "Gym bro jungler," and he followed me back on Twitter. So
Perfect.
I have to back UG because he's a gym bro jungler.
Hey,
and he recognizes me. So
that's good. You know,
a little
real
extra
recognize
taste.
real, right? Like that's really good.
That's the hope. One day, you know what, UG, you follow me on Twitter now, man.
Something
Hit
about
me
these
the
Maryville
DMs.
junglers, man, because Odd Orange was always the same way too.
Well, it's because they have people that tell them to go to the gym,
I
right?
guess.
But then some of them fall in love with it. So
Iconic
that's the
doesn't
good
have a
It's the
Twitter, so who knows
man,
what he's like.
You know, I think having that structure, if you're disciplined in life and you have the structure out of the game, it's very easy to approach the game in a structured way, right?
Yeah.
I can't express how much of an advantage it is that Maryville are basically around each other 24/7 and hanging out and like being a team as opposed to being faces on a Discord, right? And FlyQuest, to their credit, has done a really good job team building this year, right? Like they seem like they're all on the same page. Everyone knows what their job is. They've integrated a rookie and an import. Usually you get to do one of those things. They did both. So like not taking anything away, they did a really good job this split. But it's going to be like who can dig deeper and who's got the bigger champ pool. And maybe Maryville can dig deeper, but I think Fly C have naturally just bigger pools, better players. And so that's kind of where I'm leaning.
I agree.
It's going to be close.
I'm just a contrarian at this point because the more Seasons talks about it, I want to switch my pick, but I
Hey.
have to be the contrarian. I'm sticking with MU.
All right,
No,
all
yeah.
right.
Don't let me convince you.
You're doing it.
It'll be
I
better.
think
No, it'll be better if you win, right? Like
True.
I almost went to the dark side, but nope, I didn't.
Nope.
Right? So
I was tempted.
stick to your guns.
I can't.
No,
yeah.
I will be. I'll be the MU pick.
I can't lie on here. I've made an oath.
Who's the
so-
MVP? Who's the MVP of the
of
series?
The series? Or
Yes.
If
Finals
MU win,
MVP.
it's going to be UG, I think, personally.
Okay.
I think it'll be quad.
I think
You're
Quad's
not
the
gonna
easy
say
pick.
Surdy?
I'm
No.
gonna say Surdy.
I
Gordo,
guess
I'm
it's
gonna say
brand.
Surdy.
but I'm gonna say it's gonna be quad.
I think it probably will be Quad too. He's very, very good and has been playing high impact, so probably good shot there. But I'm gonna go Surdy. I want to see, I want to see Surdy graduate. No more NACL. I feel bad. Like he's an LCS player.
He is.
He is.
He
It
is.
was just really unfortunate this
And he should
offseason.
be. The unfortunate thing is, I do like not to get too off track here, but I think the best LCS home for him, at least in summer, is probably Shopify, and I would hate for that to happen to
Mhm.
Fake God. Like
Mhm.
I
True.
want Fake God to have another split so bad, but I also want Sturdy to move up so bad, and I'm like, well,
But you could see a lot of shuffling. We've already seen 2 coaches in LCS get let go. So
yeah,
I think both Dig and IMT let their coaches go. So that could signal roster changes coming.
it could.
So maybe Fake God stays in LCS but bounces teams or something, or somebody like Dig just full sends it on someone like Surdy, right?
Yeah, but I
you
don't
know,
want
I
to wish
could
that
see
on
it.
Sturdy either.
No, I don't. I'm no comment on the LCS orgs, right? I think
Yeah.
there's one org in particular that's kind of like, yeah, I guess I'll go there. As a coach, right? I pay attention to this stuff. You rarely see a coach get fired and the fans are upset, right? You almost never see that. Usually they're like, thank God we got this guy out of here. He's
Yeah.
ruining the team, fraud, blah blah blah. Doesn't understand this. So you kind of messed up as an org if the coach is getting fired and everyone's going, huh? What's going on? Why are you letting the coach go after your last place, right? So it's tough.
Yeah,
it's a tough situation.
Yeah, I don't know.
I hope
the bar is on
IMT
the
can recover
floor.
and build on it, but I'm not sure about the decision making.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is like, yeah, I don't know. Immortals is like allergic to investing in their future, so I would be very surprised if they grabbed an NACL player. Because I talked about this I don't remember where I talked about this. I think it was on this show, but as you know, Immortals has started in the last 7 splits, they've started 1 NA rookie. And it was Kenby.
Oh, and they nearly ruined him. Oh, sorry. Oops, my bad.
Oh,
hot mic, yeah.
Hot mic.
The Immortals sponsorship is going down the tubes, guys. It's not gonna happen.
I liked Allstate anyways.
Well, that's it.
Are they still sponsored by Progressive?
I think so. Yeah, I think they're still IMT Progressive.
The Mayhem guy can take Flow any day of the week, and I'll say it in front of IMT's faces.
I believe that. All right.
I think my insurance company is correct.
We can round out. We can round out our present of NACL there and move on to the future of NACL because we've got the promotion tournament kicking off on Tuesday. Right after, I don't know what the exact schedule is going to be. I just know it's scheduled for like April 2nd through 7th. So it will start on Tuesday and end over the weekend. So hopefully we'll be able to dip in somewhere and talk about our predictions mid-tournament. But I do want to give the primer right here, right now. So let's go through the teams and let's chat about each of them and how both what the rosters are for anybody who maybe doesn't know, and then we'll talk about our thoughts on each team in this tournament and what we think about their odds, and maybe who we pick to be able to move forward from there. Really quick before I forget, TDS did say he goes Fly Challengers 3-1 MU. He unfortunately is not able to join us today, but he's in the Sneezes camp.
Gotta go with 5 games though.
Yep.
Gotta go 5 games. Come on.
Nah,
come on, TDS.
He missed this, so. He also just gave me predictions for round 1 of the promotion bracket, so I guess I'll give that shout out for him too. But let's get to the teams. Let's start off with the NACL teams. So we'll just go like seeding downward, I suppose. Starting off with Lit Esports, because they're the team that everybody should be most familiar with already, because they were already in NACL and they haven't made any changes. That's going to be from top to bottom, Dragoon, Kisno, Messages, Rockboom, and Plux. So, they came in, they played their season, they ended about where most folks, I think, predicted them. Maybe some folks had them like 8th or 7th, depending on how they rated the original Maryville and how down they were on Wildcard. But here they are. They end up back in promotion tournament, back where they started. How are we feeling about this squad? I'll let you guys start off.
I'll start. I think Lit had a solid season. I know that's a weird thing to say when you finish 10th place, but they did not circle the drain the entire season. They were pretty competitive, especially in the early part of the season. And basically, from being in the NACL and playing over the split, usually what happens is by the 5th or 6th week, teams take a big leap forward. And if you don't, you kind of get left in the dust. And I feel like that's what happened with Lit as the season went on. Teams having more tape on them, teams seeing them more in scrims, understanding the strategies that they were going to go for, and somewhat limited champion pools of some of their players, made it very difficult for them down the stretch. That being said, I do think they have a good shot in the promotion tournament. I don't think they're that pound for pound weaker than a lot of these teams trying to promote. And just from like a tournament perspective, right? Tournaments don't produce optimal League of Legends because you're playing the format as much as you're playing the video game, right? And so being an NACL team, they're afforded a bye into semis. And so they really just have to win 2 series, 3, I think, if they lose a round to make it back in. So that first series in the upper semis is going to be really important because it can get them right into the finals. And then they have 2 lives in finals. So if I'm Lit, I'm really want to win that first series so that you're as close to finals as possible, and then you just need a BO5 to go your way, right? And where I would give Lit the best chance is going to sound weird, but managing your mental. Lit has a big staff. They have a relatively experienced staff. They have a sports psych. they have a lot of people who are interfacing with these players, keeping their chin up, and the players know that the org is invested in them. I've been on both sides of the promotion relegation tournament. The most difficult thing is managing the mentality of the team. It's super stressful to be an NACL team. Come in bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. We're gonna rock the league. By this time next year, I'm gonna be in LCS. Is what a lot of players are hoping for. And then you finish low, and you go into this tournament, and you're really stressed, and you're like, am I even gonna have a spot next year? Blah blah blah. All those like negative thoughts swirling around. Scrims are probably going bad. You're scrimming for like a month with no competition. And the org's incentive is to have you scrim because they don't want to lose the spot. But like nobody wants to scrim right now, right? Especially with the same roster, people are already thinking about next split. So it's really tough situation. But I think Lit have the tools to keep their head up, keep their attitude good. They've played through the adversity all season and they didn't seem checked out or boomed or not trying. So to me, Lit, play your game. Play the champs that you're comfortable with, play the style that got you to NACL in the first place, and I'd say they have greater than 50% chance of keeping their spot. I don't know how they're going to show up. They might be having really hard time. I haven't heard anything or asked around their scrims or anything, but if their mental's good, that's probably better than half the teams in here, right? Because it's very, very stressful. I can't overemphasize, like, basically the teams that are chilling always win, and the teams that are not chilling always lose when it comes to promotion relegation. Like, that is like, if I could go like gauge the mental temperature of every team, I could just accurately predict the whole result right now. So sorry to rant, but like this is a topic I'm very well versed in, and it's basically, this is my read. If mental is good, Lit, you will win. If mental is not good, make it fun. Find a way to make it fun. Make it exciting. Like, be invested. You can beat these guys. Good luck.
No, that wasn't a rant. That was a speech.
Yeah, that was
I very much
promotional.
enjoy it. That's why we have you on here. Yeah, motivational. I agree with everything.
I hated getting relegated. Please don't get relegated. It's the worst feeling in the world.
Okay, now
I'm
you're
praying for all the homies.
You're putting the pressure
No,
back
I'm
on
praying
again.
for the homies, man. I'm praying for all the homies.
Praying for all the homies.
It's rough out there.
I definitely, I'm not going to say or disagree with anything Steve just said. I'm just interested to see when it comes to Lit. I always believed that they have very upside solo laners. Gordo, I know you as well are very high on messages. I feel like messages kind of was one of those guys, as you talked about it a bit earlier, that kind of maybe got caught up with playing mid lane in the NACL in your first split. And I think this is a big test to see like what messages we're going to get. And some of it might play into the mental thing you're talking about, Caesars, because I think when messages is on, not only is he just a very demanding mid laner to go up against, but I just remember I loved watching messages
in tier 3
for some like the more interesting picks he'd play out
Yes.
in tier 3, right? Like I loved when he would take Rumble mid lane when you were expecting Rumble top all the time, and he would take Rumble mid, just catch guys off and just completely slam that lane. And then that also inadvertently opened up a lot more for Dragoon, who I just think Dragoon and messages together, like when they're playing together and they're on, it's a bit of a cop out because I think solo lanes are still very strong, like the strongest in season 14 in a lot of ways. But like when Dragoon and messages are on, like this Lit team is very hard to beat. So I'm most in particular looking to messages to see like if he'll get back to like beating up on these like tier 3 mid laners that we were going to see in this promotion tournament. And also, I think something we talked about, off the air, is that like the mid lane talent pool coming up right now is either guys who like meteorically rose out of nowhere, and that we're still looking to see like when are they really going to flame like calm down a bit, like guys like Samikin, right? They're in this tournament. There are a lot. I don't think there is a tough matchup mid lane right now for messages, especially if they
in
play
their half of the bracket, assuming.
I think on the bracket,
correct,
I
yes.
agree. I think in the tournament, I disagree, but on the bracket, that side, if they can stay in uppers, I think they can do it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's mostly what I'm trying to say here.
Yeah, I think so. I definitely agree with the mid lane point, right? Like I think one of my strong opinions coming into the day is that or coming into the tournament is that the mid lane pool is pretty weak. And, you can interpret that as, like, upside for messages, right? Like, the opportunity for messages to be able to step up and be able to slam these guys. But like I think he's also like, you could say that about any player in this turn, any of the mid laners, right? Because he's contributing to it. Like I think he was underwhelming as a mid laner in the NACL this split. And that doesn't mean I don't think he can improve, but it's like I think that like that he's part of the reason that I think that the mid lane pool is kind of weak here, and he's gonna when you look at somebody like Bradley, he's gonna be one of the guys that I'm like, oh yeah, Bradley can just dumpster this guy, if they end up having to play against each other. So for Lit, my outlook on them is a little bit grimmer than I think what we've heard from you two guys so far. I think like coming into the split, like if you had asked me what do you think's going to happen with Lit, I probably would have been of the position that Lit is gonna, they'll win a couple games here and there off of interesting picks from Dragoon or messages, and then like maybe Kisno will clutch up a Kindred game every now and then and they'll win that. And like that's it. Other than that, they're probably going to be lower towards the bottom end. And I think that's kind of what we got. Like I didn't really see much different than that throughout the season. I think there's definitely some improvement in there. Like it's not like they just kind of stagnated the whole way through. But I do think...
I have a dumb question, actually. Sorry to interrupt you, Gordo.
No,
I have a dumb question. Is the promotion tournament fearless?
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha. Just couldn't remember, wasn't sure. Sorry to interrupt over that. I think it does matter. I think that actually hurts Lit. Because like you're saying, they have some very interesting defined strategies with things like the Kindred Seraphine that if you only get to play once, especially in BO5, could be tough.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, all of NACL qualifiers have been fearless as well as the NACL. So yeah, this will be fearless.
Right.
Which is great. Again,
yes, we love fearless.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, I'm just kind of concerned about Lit. Rock Boom has been clutch as hell in circumstances like these in the past. So I am a little bit, I think there's a little bit of hope in there. But the 80 carry pool is ridiculous in this tournament. So it's like, I think that's a tough thing to rely on as well. So I'm a little bit more doomer on Lit. I do think they have a nice half of the bracket. Like I could see them making the promotion matches. I think it's the winning them that will get tough.
And that's where the mental comes in. I could see Lit dropping the first one and winning the second one. It's kind of my road for them.
I could see that.
I think uppers is really competitive. But there's going to be somebody who's in lowers that gets into finals, but they're shot. You got to play 1, 2, 3. You got to play like 5 games if you're in lower finals from some of these brackets. It could be really tough.
They will. Yeah, that's fair. I can definitely see that. So let's move on to why upper promotion match is going to be tough. Mirage Alliance, our 10th seed from the NACL, have undergone a little bit of reconstruction. Their roster for the promotion tournament will be Alorum top, Dardoch moving back to jungle, Soligo in mid, Neo back at 80 carry, and then Prismal back at support. So 4 players in new positions, 2 players entirely new to the roster. At least compared to the regular season, like Neo was around, right?
Yeah.
So totally different Mirage team, and a stronger one. So I would say,
definitely.
I think most would say that. So yeah, I mean, I think this is my pick to like win promotion match 1. They're, I think, the strongest team here. They have so much experience. I think Neo might be the best player in the tournament. This guy is like borderline LCS level. He is always been so good at this level when he's had to play. He was on vacation this split. It's not like he was removed from the roster or anything. They love him over at Mirage. They've kept him on their sub squad for a reason. He's back. He's ready to crush this tournament. Even with how stacked 80 carry is, I still think he will. And I think like the rest of the squad is just like really well set up to, I think, play more like the Mirage that made it through this tournament initially.
I completely agree. I'll tell a quick story, right? So the very first promotion relegation was a like 8-team or 6, I don't know, a bunch of
It was 8
teams, but
teams,
like
yeah.
more, there were 8 teams, but 4 got in kind of thing. And AOE was in there through some weird fluke because the only teams that could get relegated were NACL, like non LCS orgs at the time.
Yep.
And so they finished like 6th in the regular season or 7th in the regular season out of 16, but like got in relegations because they were the 4th worst, non-affiliate, right?
Right.
So
right.
it was like, that was when Fear was like top 4, and yeah, it was a crazy split, but it was just unlucky that they had to be there, and they were so much better than everyone else. We scrimmed them on TFT. They were scrimming everybody, and just they were so much better and had such a better grasp on the game, played faster, played the timers better, that they dictated the entire meta. I know we talked about this a little bit off air, Gordo. Like, that's why everyone picked up Olaf and Maokai and Jace, because they were so much better than the competition in that tournament that the meta kind of warped around them. And so I don't know who Mirage is scrimming. I don't know, what their schedule's like, but my feeling is that this is the best team in the tournament. And if you see like Ole Miss, CCG, Winthrop, Blue Otter come out with some picks that they haven't played, it's probably because they're getting rolled by Mirage and are trying to adapt to what they're doing, right? So that's going to be my litmus test if Mirage is, going to just slam everything and win, is if I see some of these OQ teams in the promo tournament, especially Winthrop, Blue Otter, who are their likely scrim partners being on the other side of the bracket, if they come out playing, Champion Redacted A and Champion Redacted B, I'm not going to give away strats. Not for free. Just kidding. Don't DM me. I won't respond to you.
It's true. I've asked Neezus
I won't give away.
input
I won't give
before,
away
even
strats
just for this show, and he hasn't responded to me. So
true. No, never. But I won't give away strats. But if I see Winthrop and Blue Otter playing strats that I'm identifying with Mirage Alliance, then that's going to be my litmus test for, okay, they're going to run everyone and easily get back in.
Yeah. Can you just DM me like a thumbs up if it happens? Like, you don't have to say anything specific. Just like, while the series is going on, just throw me like a little, and we'll know.
We'll see.
Okay.
We'll see.
We'll see. We'll figure out a code.
Do you got a third podcast you can invite me on to kill?
I
No, I'm just
don't. Not
kidding.
yet. Not yet, but we'll see. I mean, anything's possible in the off season.
But so I think they're the best team, is like the TLDR.
Yep. Slayer.
Yeah, I think most of the points I had were already said. Everything around Mirage has been very wonky and a weird split nonetheless, right? And I don't want to speak too much on any of that because I don't know what's going on inside of there. The most I know is from what Norm said here a couple weeks back. Obviously a very different time, but on paper, I'll just reinforce the points that you guys talked about, which is that, Neo, it's not only that Neo is, like, I don't know why the part of my head's like, why is he in a promotion tournament, right? Like why is he not scrimming Dignitas and Immortals on one of the, like, or why is he not scrimming LCS rosters on a roster?
I mean, you never know. They could be scrimming LCS rosters, who knows?
True.
It's that light scrim time of year. The well runs a little dry about March, April.
Yeah.
True. Okay. That's a fair point. But my point is, like, why is he here, right? Like, he's just,
For sure.
he's going to be a very good talent. I am very excited to see him go against, like, potentially guys like, see him go against guys like Instinct, or potentially, I'd really like to see how, like, Shogo and Neo match up against each other, because, everyone likes to talk about Shogo. Might not happen, though, especially once we start talking about how this is all going to play out. But I am also most excited to see, how does Darduck look back in the jungle? Because I was the one that believed that they should have kept him in the jungle. Once they got into the NACL, they should have put him back to jungle in the first place. And I thought they would have had a more successful season. So I'm excited to see what Darduck will look like back in the jungle, because, I mean, it's Darduck playing jungle. Like, if you've been a fan of the LCS for any amount of years, what more do I need to say to you?
Yeah.
I'm just going to go on record. I'm a huge Darduck stan. I've worked with Darduck. He's probably one of my favorite players I've ever worked for. The whole rap about him is just so disgusting. It makes me sick. He's easily the most professional player I've worked with in terms of his approach to the game and his preparation, his mentality, and he'll give you credit as a staff member if you do a good job. Like, I love Darduck. Homies, keep killing it. The guy can play support. I don't want to hear this stuff about role swap. He can do what he wants. I'm glad he's back jungle too, but I don't want to rag on him on the support stuff either, because he had a solid split in support, and he promoted into the league as a support too. So, let's not get too hasty, but I think he crushes it on the jungle. I'm sure he's playing really well, and he gets them through the early game, and Neo carries the late game. It seems like a good roster to me, right? But I think I hate the narratives on Dardoch, because there's so many extreme opinions, right? Where he's just like a good player who's not 17, anymore from 10 years ago. So it's like, I don't know. He's a good guy. I really like him. I hope they're successful. Shout out to Lorem as well. Yeah. Another veteran guy who want to see them succeed. So hoping for the best there, and I'm sure they're crushing it.
For sure. And one other thing about this Mirage team, by the way, is like you brought up Sneeze's like the lull of rounding out your season, being disappointed, and then having to go back to scrimming. Mirage Alliance have cleverly dodged this by being like a whole new team, right?
Yes, by changing roster. Yeah, it's actually it's the one point I forgot to bring up, is they're not probably super bummed and depressed, because they've already prepped their roster for summer, where they're probably thinking like, all right, we're gonna run it now. Like we got these veteran guys back, we got Neo back. Like, yeah, they're not even probably thinking too much about the promotion tournament. They're thinking, how do we top 4 in ACL next split?
Yeah, I mean, half the team wasn't even here for the collapse of the regular season, and 2 more players weren't playing these positions.
And honestly, they didn't play that bad. Like they just would always have some crazy late game. Like someone's getting picked. It's just painful, man. Like if you go watch their series, it's like they're cursed,
so I think
man.
like the change from no hate to Prismal, by the way, but like it was usually Prismal getting picked. Like, so I think moving that responsibility over to Neo and letting Prismal take on the role that he's played at a higher level more recently will be good for them.
Definitely.
Yeah. 100%. I mean, he's on the same coin, like, not to circle back to the Dardoch stuff, but I always just thought the Dardoch was potential to be more unlocked playing jungle than playing support. Not that he played like a bad support at all, like you mentioned. I just thought that he would be better in the jungle. And it's also because I thought Prismal also was caught off guard playing AD, at least for like the start of the split with everything going on. So I think he's much better support. It's both sides of the coin, with them both switching back to their
for
own
sure.
roles.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that, let's get into the challengers, the winners or top 4 teams from the NACL qualifiers this past split, which Slayer and I have been a big part of covering, so really excited to get to talk about these guys a little bit more on the show. I know I said I would do it in seed order. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it in like order they appear on the bracket. Let's kick things off with Winthrop University, who has been a team
There we go.
I've been real hyped on for a while. From top to bottom, this team is going to be Denethor, Wakao, formerly known as Trickster, for those who maybe are a little bit out of the loop, Sword, Mobility, and Chookies. So you can start us off, Slayer.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, listen, Winthrop, I feel like they've been written into promoting at this point. And while there are a lot of great Throps Out Winthrop fans, like, I love that energy is here. The guy that you have to start and talk about, that everyone likes to talk about, is Denethor. I think this guy, regardless how Winthrop finishes, will at least be getting offers onto a potential roster in the NACL. Maybe not for summer, but like in the next calendar year, this guy should be in the NACL. But I also think that this team sneakily relies a lot on mobility. I remember when Mobility, was playing on EG Prodigies in a couple of OQs before. Really impressed by him. Kind of got thrown in the dumpster fire when he ended up subbing into the NACL, and like that was a whole I'm sure that was a chaotic time for him, and it didn't go the way he wanted to. So then he just settles back down. He like grounds himself. He's like, all right, I'm here with Winthrop. I'm here to push the mission that like this is going to be the next big thing, collegiate. Like this team, I believe in them. I really think mobility is a big factor of how Winthrop wins games, and I think mobility, if he gets like all the right things about mental, like he's also playing in a collegiate environment where like they have all the things we were talking about with Maryville available to them. I am very high on mobility as a player, and I think he drew a matchup round 1 that I think is going to benefit him very well. So I think people need to remember. I don't think a lot of people have forgotten, but I just think mobility is as big of a player on Winthrop as people talk about with like guys like Denethor. So I want to sing him some praise. It's also the AD carry player in me wanting to talk about every AD carry on every team possible. So there's that too.
Yeah. So I think Winthrop is good. I think they're well coached. I think they know how to play the game together. I'm a little concerned about the long haul with them. I do think the first matchup is very good. But it's kind of so how about this? Olive Branch. I have some friends over at Winthrop, full disclosure. Some friends on the staff over there. I don't want to piss them off. So I'll do Winthrop a favor and give them free bulletin board material. I think they're very good, but I'm worried about the later games in the tournament, and I'm worried about like the lower bracket, like final promotion match. I think it's very hard if they're against a hot team that just lost to, the upper bracket final. I think it's hard to come through the lower bracket if you're Winthrop. So my advice to Winthrop is win as many of these early games you can, get into upper finals, and if you can't, or upper semis, whatever. And if you can't promote there, full send it in the lower finals. But I think it'll be really tough for Winthrop if they have to go through the full losers bracket. Bank as many of those wins early on as you can. And I gotta say, in the whole tournament, I'm probably leaning more out than in. But if you're a Winthrop person, I just killed Slayer. If you're a Winthrop person and you're listening, it's not because I think you're bad. It's because I want you guys to succeed, and I'm just giving your team free motivation. Right? That's my cope.
That's our second motivational speech
Sorry for killing you, Slayer.
Of the promotion tournament.
It's okay.
But that's my cope. I don't want to upset my friends over there, so I'm gonna say that they might struggle, but only as a way to motivate them.
Yeah, I see that concern, right? Like I've been so high on this Winthrop team all split long. After they won ACL, like I was plugging them even pre NACL starting that they would be in this tournament for summer. And, here's their opportunity to do it. But it's like, it's hard to deny, like, despite all the hype, despite all the promises said by me and others, like, they did not win a qualifier tournament. They made deep runs in both, but they didn't win either of them. And they lost to different teams each time. And, yeah, it just feels like they have struggled to get over the last hurdle in events that aren't called the Aegis Champions League. And I don't know what to say about that. Like, I don't know what you do about that, right? Like, I think they've got a great staff over there. I'm sure they're like taking these kind of things into account and working on that kind of mental stuff. And I think, if this is the tournament where they clean it up, like, I think they have the skills, right? They have the pound for pound ability to do it. So if they lose, it is because of an inability to get things together strategically. And an inability to outthink your opponents rather than an issue with individual players' skill. Because I have seen this roster defeat teams of high-level NACL players player for player. Like, I've seen them win, against... What was Peach Cats? Peach Cats was Existence / Moose Hater, and then it
was
Keel, Onat,
yeah.
Onat, Wixie, and they would Kim down by the time it was the finals too, which is low key like almost an upgrade. And yeah, and like in that Team Fish Taco team that split, that was like Surdy and Winnie and Array and Young and all those guys. Like they've played against our highlight players of the NACL, and they've been able to go toe to toe with them successfully before. It's just putting it together as a team. That's the hurdle for them. agree with the earlier shout-outs. I know you're maybe a little lower on him, Sneezes, but Denethor's the future. I love that guy. I think he's going to be great in NACL. I'm really looking forward to him making it there one way or the other. But yeah, I don't know. I got high hopes for Winthrop, but they will not be in my predictions.
I think they take the first round.
Against Blue Otter? Yeah.
I do. Yeah.
I do too. And with that, let's get into Blue Otter. I mean, unless anybody has any parting thoughts on Winthrop.
Nope.
Keep things moving along. So their opponent in the first round is
my
going to be
inbox.
Blue Otter. What was that, Sneezes? Sorry?
Rip my inbox. I'm going to get flamed
Blue
for that
Otter,
one.
the artists formerly known as Aporia. This team from top to bottom is Lawrence, Music, Samakin, Lynx, and Rovex. And they will be playing up against Winthrop in round number 1. So I think the name that'll stand out to people who maybe don't follow Tier 3 as closely will be Samakin. Like, you'll be like, who is this guy? Hit rank 1 last year, former Zoe one trick.
Former.
The only,
yeah.
the newest. He's not currently rank 1, is he?
No. I was talking about the Zoe one trick part.
Oh,
he still plays Zoe.
He still plays
yeah.
Zoe, but he doesn't one trick it anymore. And yeah, I mean, I think probably like career-wise, the newest player in this tournament. Had a really solid season. I mean, had a really, hit that rank 1 towards the end of summer. Got a lot of looks for combines this last offseason. Got onto a solid roster in this Blue Otter team as kind of like their risky piece. Paid off. They won the first OQ and made a deep run in the second one, and here they are. So this is a really interesting team. I think this is like the most... It's either them or Winthrop are like the most all-rounder team, right? They're not like so focused in on like needing to play a specific way. Like Lawrence plays everything in the meta. Music plays everything in the meta. Even Samakin plays like pretty much everything in the meta. Like, what does Samakin not play? He busts out pretty much everything and has his own pocket stuff like the Zoe as well.
I feel like I haven't seen Samakin play a ton of like those in-your-face AD mid laners, but they're not.
Yeah, but that's not the meta. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's not meta. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
Pretty rare.
My bad. I was just thinking.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, I think it's a fair call out, but it's just like I just don't think that's going to come up. Like I don't think there's a world where Blue Otter loses and we're just like, yeah. And if Samakin had played that, Yona,
yeah,
like, I just don't think that's going to be. That's not going to be what does him in.
Yeah. True.
I think they are pretty well-rounded. I got a weird question. I didn't see the series. How did they lose to Ole Miss? Like, what was the circumstances that caused them to lose?
Slayer cast that series. Slayer, take it away, my man.
Yes. So, basically, their problem was this is the point I was going to lead out to, is that they kind of just got really like disjointed when it came to like later big objective fighting or like setups for those big objectives, like
mid-late game setup.
Mid-late game setup, right? Yeah, and they picked comps where they were really reliant on like getting and blowing up like the priority player for Ole Miss, which in game 1, like they picked like game 1, they're playing like they're doing like Vi Ari, like mid lane, like set up to dive back,
which is what you draft against Ole Miss, by the way, because you need to kill Shogo or he'll take over the game.
Yeah, and it was a Shogo Zeri game, but they just they stalled out with an early lead around some of those fights. It got too messy around Barons, around Dragons, and then it got to the point where like enough of the pillars around Shogo Zeri were too big, and they just couldn't kill Shogo. They lose game 1. Game 2, they had a Baron throw. Like they had this really weird Baron call where they're doing the Baron, but like I think it was like Samakin was like sitting out there like trying to just brunt why am I blanking? Your Uncle Sam, like trying to keep him off of the pit. He ends up dying to a solo kill. They have a teleport behind, so they get the Baron, but they all get wiped. So it's TLDR, Sneezes, like that mid-late game, like definitive, like we're gonna go do this. Like, all right, get off Baron, we're gonna kill them off, or stick to the Baron. We're gonna finish the Baron. Like they were messing up there, and if you're doing that against Ole Miss,
yeah, you're done.
I worry. Yeah, I worry about how you look at the promotion tournament.
Yeah, and so from my perspective, then, if that's the case, mid-late game is the hardest to teach because you get the least reps on it, right? For every 20-minute blow-up game you have in solo queue or in comp even, you don't get to experience them in the late game. So the later the game goes, the more like difficult it is to see those situations, analyze the situations, actually play them out properly, right? So that it's like a big thing in coaching is focusing on, deploying on the map, lanes to play for, minion waves, like setup, vision cycle, blah 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 blah. But if that's the issue, I'm a little worried about them in the first round against a team like Winthrop, who has the same kind of advantages we talked about earlier with Maryville. That roster's been around a long time. They know each other. They're in person. They have a dedicated staff, right? All of those things can help mitigate your decision making and make those calls easier to make. And so if this team struggles in the mid-late game, I think that's like a pretty rough sign for them, at least matchup wise, against a good late game team in Winthrop, right? So I think if I was them, maybe do some funky invade, try to build a lead and play from ahead. Those decision making points get a lot easier when you're ahead versus even or behind. And so I think for them to win, they should find a way to get an early lead through whatever lane, right? Put Samikin on Zoe again. Get Music involved. Music's really good ganking jungler, right?
So really quickly, that's the thing. I will say, Ole Miss, Samikin had not lost a Zoe game all qualifiers. He somebody picked it in GSL stage. He goes like 10-0-9. Like the game was unplayable. Ole Miss let him pick Zoe. They left it unbanned in game 1. He didn't pick it. Game 2, he does pick it, and they still won without his Zoe. So teams are willing to. It's fun that the teams are willing to now at this level test his Zoe as a whole, which is cool.
Yeah, that is cool.
Because it was getting banned like every game.
Of course, I mean, I would. Yeah,
I would. Yeah. I think it'll get banned again. Like I think especially promotion on the line. I think you just don't give him that kind of comfort. I think it's just.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious though because like
if I'm up a game, I consider dropping it though. If I'm up 1-0, I think about it.
Yep. I mean that's what Ole Miss did. So
Fair.
well, I'm actually pretty certain they left it open both games. So maybe maybe Glamour was cooking. I don't know.
Yeah, they just don't. They don't feel the intimidation. Yeah. I want to highlight Lynx on this team as well, just a little bit. I think he's been really, really solid. Like he's like against tier 3 competition, especially. I think he's been like mega standout, right? If he wasn't coming down from NACL and was instead like a newer player, I think he would be getting a huge amount of hype. Instead, he kind of comes down and he looks like a tier 2 player in tier 3. Which there's a few guys like that. He just looks like a step above the rest of the competition around here. And I mean, he's just another contributor towards that 80 carry pool, man. It's crazy at this level. It's crazy in this tournament in particular. So it'll be interesting to check out. But I do think, they'll need somebody else to like step up for them to make it. Like I won't be predicting them to make it. They need I think they need a solo laner to like really kind of come out ahead here and be again. Like I think I'll say about Samikin the same thing I was saying about messages, right? Which is like I think the mid pool feels relatively weak. Samikin is a part of that as a rookie and like a brand new guy to this to tier 3, let alone to playing at the tier 2 level. But if he if he comes out, if he just embraces it, comes out as his best self, I think he could be like a top 2 mid laner in the tournament. Like I don't think that's crazy out of the question because I don't think the competition is too stiff outside of Bradley. And if he does that, like I think that's a huge, that could be a huge weapon in Blue Otter's arsenal that could help them make that push.
And
after
even if they don't
last
promote,
time, by the way,
Samikin should have looks in the summer.
Sorry, go ahead.
Even if they don't promote, he should have some looks in the summer. I'd be surprised if he doesn't at least get some tryouts and some looks.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm just super like Samikin's trajectory's like very cool to see. You talk about the rank 1 hitting, but Gordo, if you remember, like when we had Uncapped Risen, like I talked to him about it, like that Samikin fan club team, like that's all of his friends, like all of his boys, and he made like he did like take games off of
CCG.
Take games off of some of the like CCG, one of the CCG
which was basically
rosters.
the lit esports team.
Yeah, which is basically esports.
Nice.
Like him and his fan club. Another guy that I hope will get more reps. Devin was on that team. He was We Hope. That guy. I'll say it now. Sleeper marksman player for the future. But My point is, like, he played with a bunch of his boys. He's taking games off of like Dragoon and messages. Like, I was like,
Isn't he on their
okay.
dev team right now?
I think he is.
Devin?
Actually.
On
yeah,
the
Devin.
CCG dev team, yeah. Pretty sure.
Yeah, I think he is. Yeah, because hey, game recognized game.
They have Hakai right now.
Do they? I think I think Devin is
Devin's on
ACL
Abandoned
team, but
Kittens. He's in ACL, but he's on Abandoned Kittens.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but so he's been playing pretty well there too. But back to my point, just really cool to see that Samikin, like, in what is now going to be like 6 months time, has gone from like a rank 1 trick Zoe player that peaked rank 1 to knocking on the door of tier 2 in like this short amount of time.
Yeah,
I see that he streams all the time, like all the games he's playing, like he's putting in the work too. Not that I didn't think he wasn't, but
yeah,
it's super cool. Like, if you're Samikin, however this promotion tournament goes, like, obviously coming off of, if it's a loss, like, it's gonna suck, but like, I hope he just keeps that mental good, like that he's done this in 6 months. Like, man, Samikin, I don't know if you're listening. The sky's the limit. Like, even if you don't bow out of this promotion tournament in Blue Water.
Yeah, and like org should take notice too of like that trajectory is super important, and like the timing of it matters a lot too, right? Like, I think it's especially for North America. Like, everybody always highlights like, you know, the players like Jojo Pune and Blabber and Spica and you know, Danny and whatever, name your favorite player. At how they, like, you know, they come out at, like, you know, they're already like in Sniper, you know, like they're already great players at 15, and then they're in Academy at 16, and they're in LCS at 17, and like, if you're not on that trajectory, you know, like, people put you at a tier below. But it's like, I think for North American players especially, and I'm curious on your thoughts on this, Sneezes, as like a coach at the collegiate level, but I think my feeling is that for North American players in particular, like 18, 19 is where that spike often hits a lot as you get out of high school, go to college, get exposed to better coaching, get a lot more free time. You know, like, I think that's where a lot of players kind of experience that huge level up. And that's been the case for Samikin, right? Samikin started college in 2023, and look at him since then. He's really leveled up since then.
Yeah, and I'm gonna start Samikin. I don't know you, we've never met, but unsolicited advice: whatever you're doing this summer, please don't go on vacation. Please don't go on vacation. The hardest thing for a rising star player is like, you have a family obligation or you have like a trip coming up and it just kills your split for some reason. And I know you're gonna, you know, I don't know if you have anything booked or whatever, I have no clue, but I've seen it happen before where it's like, hey, I'm cracked, I'm about to move up, I have this cool thing, but I gotta go, but I'm going on a trip for a month, and so I can't play this split. Don't worry, I'll play next spring. That's like a year from now, bro. It's like 8-9 months. You know, the off season is really long. Ride the momentum, find a team. Like, I'll help you. DM me. I'm not perfect, but I'll ask around. I'll knock on doors. Please keep the momentum going. You know, you're crushing it. Keep crushing it. I hope you crush it this tournament, but if you don't, clear your schedule. Try to find a team, you know, or go to Korea. If you have the means, go to Korea.
If you're gonna take a vacation, make sure it's to Korea.
Yeah. But really cool to see. I do think that 18-19 range spike is real. I wish it was a little sooner. I think we're just kind of bad at integrating players at younger ages. You know, for better or worse, there's, you know, some positives to not doing that and some positives to doing that. I think talking about like developing players, the one like big background thing that I notice from coaching players at a bunch of different levels now, from like, you know, true amateur, like not even tier 3 all the way up to like tier 2, is coming from a sports background versus not coming from a sports background. I think a lot of players coming out of solo queue struggle to like be a teammate and like learn how to like work with people and that kind of thing. So not saying, you know, anything about particular players or like, you know, not referencing Samikin in any way, obviously, just a trend that I've seen. Think about like your team as a unit being like as important or more important than yourself, right? I think that's a really hard thing for a lot of first year players to come in, and OQ doesn't do a good job of promoting that, right? It is very short season. It is short-term rosters. It's like, oh man, we finished 8th, better blow up our roster and hopefully find better teammates, right? Like, let's do the big roster wheel spin. So I'd like more stability. I've said this on, you know, other podcasts. I'd like more stability in the OQ season. I want like one promotion event that goes the whole split and matches the NACL schedule. But that's my dream. So I don't know if it'll happen, but I think for young players, we see that spike later because the college and like young adult atmosphere forces them to like grow up a bit, learn to be a bit more independent, learn to be a teammate, right? Where that's really hard for, an upper middle class 16-year-old kid, right? Which is like the majority demographic for people who have enough time to spend playing esports.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I'm ranting a lot tonight.
I love these speeches.
No,
yeah, I love them. Honestly, yeah.
It's great. No, that's
My
great.
players get sick of them.
It's good. It's good to have the opportunity to launch off there. But I think that's enough about Blue Otter. We'll see how they're going to be able to run. Not on my list to make it, but I will not say that anybody can't make it after Lit made it last split as my number 6 team. Moving on to who I think is probably my number 6 team here, even though I'm still underrated. Maybe I'm still underrating them. Is Ole Miss, our second collegiate representative. This roster is Stray in top lane, formerly known as Straight, Latin American support international representative himself. Icelandic hero in jungle, your Uncle Sam in mid, Shogo at AD carry, and Rhino at support. What are your thoughts here, Sneezes? Number 6? Higher than that?
We'll see. I wasn't sure. I thought Ole Miss would take the finals. I thought they had kind of sorted it out and had everything together. I thought their mid jungle were really leveling up throughout the course of the split, but obviously the finals didn't go their way. CCG is probably the best of these 4 teams. If I had to, rank them objectively, just player strength and the way they've been playing. So I think it's pretty tough to kind of go against your most recent opponent right away. But I'm not going to rule out Ole Miss, from a lower bracket run, right? I think it's just unfortunate the way this bracket is set up that, their most recent final opponent, who 3-0'd them, is their next, their first match for this. So, don't want to write them off. I think Shogo could still carry and they can still find their spots, but it might be like the better angle anyway. So you have more time to figure things out. You can really refine the meta, because they should do pretty well against losers side, right? Like, I think they're feeling happy if they go down and then they're, in against somebody like Blue Otter or, Winthrop. So we'll see. Maybe Shogo just laser eyes and 1v9s and, just smurfs everyone and I'm an idiot. But I think first round hard, but I wouldn't write them out for the whole thing. And really, like, that lower bracket is always going to be about who's there at the end and who's still mentally engaged. And I think with their structure and, again, that collegiate spot, it's like pretty good odds for them that by the time we get to that 5th game, that 5th set, it'll actually be they'll still be in it mentally, where somebody might be cooked by that point.
Yeah. I think it's unfortunate, by the way, that it's Ole Miss CCG because, like you mentioned, Caesars, it's not only the final. This is the 3rd time they'll be playing each other. They had the same group of GSL where CCG.
Oh, true. I didn't realize that. Yeah. Wow.
So
That's
they
rough.
play each other. This will be the 2nd BO3, and at least the.
It's a BO5, isn't it?
In 4 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah. Is it BO5 for the qualifier?
Final was BO5. This is BO3 until the final.
Is that true?
Yeah, that's why.
Oh, that's.
Yeah,
nice.
I think that's why on the thing we're looking at, those games are actually.
The thing we're looking at doesn't tell me anything. I don't
so
know.
I was gonna say
traditionally, I don't know how it is this year, but traditionally it's BO3 and then
you're right.
I think
promotion matches are BO5.
Yes.
Yeah, that's how I think it is.
Well, so last split it was the promotion matches are BO5 and the lower semifinals were BO5 as well.
Okay, so the elimination matches then are probably BO5.
Not the 2 lower quarters though.
Oh, okay.
So the first time,
Gotcha.
the first 2 teams to get eliminated get eliminated in BO3s.
No BO5, yeah.
Then
Gotcha.
the next round that
So-
eliminates a third team will be a BO5.
If you win one BO3, you buy yourself a BO5.
Correct.
That's kind
Yeah,
of
at least-
the logic.
So it's BO3s until top 4.
Yes.
Basically.
That's a good way of
Yeah.
thinking about it. Yes.
That is a good way of
Yeah.
thinking it.
Yeah. So, still though, unfortunately, that this will be at least at the very minimum, the 6th and 7th time the Ole Miss and CCG have played each other in a month, which does bring out the old adage. I'm gonna lean on my sports knowledge here, as the Eagles fan I am. A couple years ago, we had to play the Giants in the playoffs, and it was like everyone was hyping up. It was like, oh, you can't beat a team 3 times in one season. Like the Giants are up. Fun fact for none of you sports goers, the Giants lost by 35 points. So I don't really want to hear any of that logic, even in esports. However, back on the point with Ole Miss here. It's no secret that I think Ole Miss's biggest strength lies in their bottom lane. Even though I also was very impressed, especially by how your Uncle Sam has been leveling up in these qualifiers. Like, Ole Miss
Probably
has been the
second
show-go
newest
show.
player here, by the way, after Sam again.
Yeah, also very true. It's the Shogo show, but I also think Rhino. I know Shogo likes to talk about a lot. Clamor when the whole like FIFA cards coming out of 239 is like Rhino's too low. I do think Rhino is a big part of this team. I think Rhino does a very good job of showing that like support veterancy. You can correct me on how you think about seasons, but he always finds a way to like get Shogo into a good spot where he can kind of leave him alone. And then when Rhino's at his best, he's in every lane. Like he is impacting every single lane. In that Blue Otter series, he had a rel game where like he quite literally just was bot, and then he ganked top for Void Grubs, reset, came mid, ganked there, reset, and Shogo was just flying bottom lane on Zeri farming up because it's Zeri lane. That's where I think Ole Miss is the strong. Go ahead.
Rhino's really good. Collimer's gonna hate me referencing this again, but when I was on TFT, we played native in the quarterfinals, and our whole like game plan was around Rhino, right? Getting counterpick against Rhino, setting up to like trap him in lane and punish roams. Like Rhino really is probably the best support on the. Yeah, he's up there. He's one of the best supports in this event at least, and I think his impact is really big. He's been around a while. He's really savvy, and when you have young players, it's really good to have that veteran presence and that leadership of like, okay, guys, we're in this spot. Let's just post up on this dragon. We can carry this team fight. Like this person doesn't have flash. I'm gonna hit this hook. Let's go. Right? Like that to me is a lot of value, especially with younger players. And so Rhino is really cracked. And like if you have both your vets are in the bot lane, that's like you either hard smurf or like you find shift timers and you get your bot lane, sync with jungle and get your support out there, and then fix the rest of the map. So I think they're in a good spot. It's just it's so unlucky, man. Like it's so unlucky. Play the same team 3 times in a month is just brutal.
Yeah, and I think CCG have done a really good job figuring out how to play against Ole Miss, unfortunately. And you saw it in the finals where, like you mentioned, I think they kind of did what you mentioned. Like, they didn't always have counterpick over Rhino, but they kind of made Rhino stay bottom lane a lot because they just played some really aggro bot lanes that, like, Shogo couldn't really answer for alone, just farming under turret, or, like, the game would get really out of control. So, and I think that's how you could beat Ole Miss right now. And no shame to, like, the top side for Ole Miss. Like, if I'm proven wrong, like, slap this on a meme tweet and throw it on Twitter. I will like it, retweet it. Like,
but to their credit, that's how they got here too, and everyone knew who the carries at Ole Miss were, all season, and they're here. So if they could get stopped, they would have by now, right? So we'll see.
Now it's the toughest competition yet, for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, like now, especially Neo Prismal is going to be a big challenge for those two. And we've been hearing about how great Shogo is for so long, right? Like this is not just hearing it, seeing it. Like he's guy's got 2 CLOL championships. Gonna try to take this Ole Miss team to a third, get the 3-peat. And wants to get into NACL as well, where he's been kind of gatekept for a long time because of import status. So I mean, this is like, I do wonder, like, talking about like storylines a little bit, but also talking about like mental attributes, right? Like, it's been a subject of conversation for a long time that like Shogo has not like been able to make the breakthrough into Academy, and I think there's assumptions for various reasons for that, but I think high among them is import status.
Definitely.
It's if I would think, knowing what I know about his personality, that's a little bit of a fire in you for this tournament for sure. Like your chance to like force your way in here. Interesting to see how that'll affect him and the whole team, like how they play. Really tough first matchup up against CCG though. Can't deny that. And then I do just think like, and again, it's like this is stuff I've been saying about them all season long, and yet they're here anyway, right? It's it's not Lotus, it's not Team Fish Taco, it's not BlackRock Esports, it's these guys who made it. But I'm just not super high on their top side, right? Like I think Icelandic Hero is solid, but like I think like your Uncle Sam and Stray have been like a little, like I think they're weaker than the field. I just that's kind of the opinion I come in with on them. Copy paste what I've said about mid lane 3 times already this episode for your Uncle Sam, but I'd maybe add a little extra layer of skepticism to my voice, in that like out of anybody who's gonna show up and pop off and be like substantially better than all the rest of the mid laners, I do not think your Uncle Sam is gonna do that. At least not right now. Not at this point in his career.
I think the hard part for Ole Miss is their road. I think they drew the harder side of the bracket by far.
Yes.
If I had to rank the teams, I would put Mirage 1, CCG 2. And I'm a little concerned that like the upside there though is you do swap brackets in lower. So they would play someone like a loser of Lit Winthrop, right?
Yep.
Well,
they won't play a loser of Lit. Oh yeah, they'll play a loser of Lit Winthrop. Yeah.
Yeah.
Correct.
Of like with Lit Winthrop or Blue Otter, right?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
whoever loses between those 3. Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah. Sorry, Blue Otter. But I think the road is tough on the upper bracket, and so they probably have to go through lower, which is not like what you ever want to bank on, right? It's lower bracket is very stressful, and it's very easy to just have an off day and then be done. So I think Ole Miss's road is just tough because even if they get by CCG, they have to play the best team in the tournament, right? So,
yeah,
I think first 2 rounds are super critical. Just don't be discouraged if you drop CCG again. Just keep head up. You'll get a free win in your head the next round, and just maybe somebody booms in upper finals when they lose 3-2, right? You could catch the falling knife if you're Ole Miss and you're in lowers, right? But yeah, CCG, I think pound for pound, really good roster, really experienced roster. I am a big fan of Crimson. Fun fact, Crimson was a sub on TFT last spring. And he actually played for us because Alorm's power went out. Or was it Robbie Bobs?
Yeah, I think
Robbie
he played
Bobs.
mid.
He might have played mid for us. Yeah, he played. I remember he played mid. And actually, the only reason we lost to Tony Top that series, Team Tony Top that series, in our group stage, and didn't first in that group, was because I fucked up the draft in the last game.
Oh.
We picked a bad champion for him instead of the champion that we just won on. So, my bad, Crimson.
Yeah. Well, you were just
you're
getting ready
prepping him for Fearless.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
All right. Well,
I felt so bad after that series because he was a sub too, and it was my fault that he had to pick an uncomfortable champ. So, well, yeah, CCG. Sorry.
No problem. Yeah, let's get into CCG. So this is the final team. The winner of the last OQ tournament, just barely eking in there to be able to qualify. This team is Crimson top lane, Yukino jungle, Bradley mid, Instinct, and Trevor in the bottom lane. And this team just goes crazy,
Woo.
man. I mean, like Bradley, I think is the big standout, right? Like, which is crazy because I think like Instinct and Yukino are also playing like super super well. Like I think they also are like big standout players on this team. But I think Bradley's like this is Bradley's like pop off team, right? I think, and we've been talking about the mid lane. I've been talking about the quality of the mid lane pool all episode long, but I think that this is the payoff to that is that Bradley runs this tournament. Like he is going to be far and away, I think, the most individually impactful player in the tournament. That would be my call right now. Maybe it ends up being Neo, maybe it ends up being Shogo or something. Like could happen. But my call right now is that it's going to be Bradley. And he plays so much stuff right now. He has a pool that isn't matched by other players. He is so good at being able to execute on so many different picks and be able to lead this team. He's so good in lane. He's so good out of lane. I have pretty high hopes for this team and their ability to qualify. Probably not over Mirage, but I think they're going to make the run through the bottom side. I have more players to talk about, but I'm going to pause there and let you guys start to get your opinions out there.
I think whoever wins CCG Mirage qualifies through uppers.
For sure.
I think that's the narrative that I would spin here. And I know, Slayer, you mentioned Blue Otter is well-rounded. I think CCG is the well-rounded team. They have players that can play multiple styles. Bradley is going to control the mid lane really well. And if you can play Crimson on counter pick and on blind pick, and you can win bot lane through your mid lane, it's very hard to lose a series, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, we're blue side. We put Crimson on something chill. We play to our bot side. We invalidate the top side counter pick. Okay, we're red side. We give Crimson counter pick. He hard carries. Like, that's a winning formula for a series, right? So, haven't watched a ton of their games, but pretty familiar with these players. I think experience level, they're probably up there with Mirage Alliance, pretty close. Maybe, discounting Dardoch's experience a little bit, because obviously, guy's been around for a long time. But 4 out of 5, you're pretty comparable experience level. So I think
Alorum's got a big lead too.
Alorum too. Yeah, true. My bad, Alarm. But relative to the rest of the tournament, those are the two teams with a lot of experience. And so when you're deep in a series, game 4, game 5, that's when that experience, manifests. It's not good. The promotion tournament is never clean. It's never like the best league that these players have played. It's, usually someone throws or someone gets picked or someone messes up or, you forget the little things when you're stressed out. So if CCG can remember the little things, play their timers, track enemy jungle, play on their conditions and their vision and their summoners, then I think it'll be a pretty easy ride for them, right? Even through lower.
Yeah. I agree that this, I think it might have been Gordo who was talking about the most well-rounded with Blue Otter. I do think this is the most well-rounded squad, but the reason...
My bad.
You're totally fine. The reason I sing this home based off all your other points, and I have actually CCG, once they changed their roster for the second qualifier, I think we were all working with running the Rift, and Gordo, you're with Aegis, but for Lotus, they had to be cast their Swiss stage games. I caught a lot of their games at GSL, and in one of the series in the playoffs as well. I think this is to double down on the well-roundedness. This is such a perfect team for a guy like Crimson, right? Because like the expectations around Crimson are like massive. Okay, so already you had to go into this, and like I'm sure Crimson like has like a team that's telling like they're helping him out figure out where he wants to go start playing in the pro, like to make sure he gets his the right step off to the point. This roster is perfect for him because, like you mentioned, you don't need to worry about mid lane at all, really. Probably don't need to worry about bottom lane in a lot of these matchups right now either with the duo down there. But just the veteran guys across this roster, it's just so perfect. Like Trevor, he's been around the block, right? He's worked with so many people in the bottom side. Instinct's been there. You've talked about Bradley enough. Yukino's been there as well. Like Crimson doesn't have to worry about anything but playing the lane that he dominates so well and finding the angles in those fights that he's done time and time again. There's not been a game really. There's been games where CCG have maybe gotten punched in the mouth early, right, and maybe caught off guard, and like one of those silly best of ones you talked about, right, Sneezes. But like when this team fought and got to those team fights, like Crimson just he's performing on the pedestal they're trying to put him on. Like whether it was like he broke out Yone top, and the lane wasn't the best, he still found those like flank angles, those big fate seals. His Aatrox is amazing. His Renekton is just he plays all those carry tops so well. Olaf as well, like we talked about Olaf earlier. So the fact that this team is so well to put Crimson in a place to succeed, he doesn't have to worry about those other lanes. I am the most confident that this team qualifies.
I also have this team qualifying, which kind of is starting to make me feel like we probably all have the same 2 teams qualifying, but we'll get to that.
We don't.
After
I changed mine. I can promise you we don't.
Okay, you don't have Mirage.
Wait. We'll have those conversations.
We'll get to it. I'm sorry.
Bit.
I'm baiting. I'm jumping the shark. But yeah, I mean, on that Crimson point, right? Yeah, I think like a lot of, and I don't know why I feel this way. Maybe it's mostly vibes based. I don't think I've ever seen anybody kind of say it explicitly, but I think like my vibe on Crimson is like if Crimson was like John Smith from Michigan, like I think there would be a ridiculous amount of hype around this guy. I think, because his last name is Shura, like, and his twin brother was in academy at 16, in LCS at 17, and Crimson wasn't. Like, I think some people default to like, oh, he's his lesser for that reason. But people peak at different times. Like, there's every opportunity for Crimson to still have like a crazy huge pop off career at every level of play, and yeah, I just want to say, like, if this guy was, if this guy had no family ties to anybody, if he didn't have that constant point of comparison, I think like the amount of hype around him would be absolutely insane compared to what it is right now. And yeah, people should be hyped for this guy. Like he's on the come up. He's still super, super young. He's pre that big spike period that Sneezes and I were talking about earlier, right? As you kind of start college. For a lot of North American players, Yukino as well is just getting right over there. These guys have got a huge future ahead of them, and I think they're going to make it into the NACL here pretty early on, and that's incredibly hype. Like they're
And look,
go ahead, Sneezes.
Oh, sorry, Gordo.
No,
And
please.
look, this is my message, pro Crimson message to the LCS GMs out there. Watch this guy's career, find a way to get him into NACL, level him up. We need the WWE energy. We need the kayfabe. I want to see the brother war. I want to see 100 Thieves versus, Shopify Rebellion with the Battle of the Brothers.
That'd be so
right.
hype.
I want to see microphones get lowered down from the ceiling.
Get Viper on the cast.
I want to see Yone versus Yasuo. Like, give me,
get Viper on the cast.
Yeah, exactly. Like, let's get the viewers back hyped on some good old fashioned family rivalry, right? It's a great story. I want to see Eli and Peyton Manning in the LCS.
Oh yeah,
that's what I'm hoping for. So keep an eye on this kid. I hope he does well, and yeah, let's see him build a career, and hopefully he doesn't get flamed too much at Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I think Yukino now has the proud title. This just hit me. I think he's the only player that's played with all 3.
Oh, really? That's sick. That's super sick.
Because Viper subbed in on 100 Thieves Challengers while Yukino was there. So Yukino's played with all 3.
That's great. That's fun.
That's super sick. Hell yeah.
Also, another random, more on topic centric fun fact about Yukino. He has 2 games on Zinzao where he had 18 kills. Which,
that's a lot of kills.
That's a lot of kills.
Crazy.
It's happened more than once in a qualifier. I was just shocked it happened in the the finals too. Like the first time he did it was against I think the 30th seeded team. Which no offense to Sean and Tonin and Zora Esports, but he popped off against them. But to do it again, like I thought I was watching the VOD. I was like, is this just Yukino 9-0 out of 15 minutes again on Zinzao? Like what's going on here, guys?
He was giga cracked in the series against Winthrop too. Like I think he was the most important player in that series. His Wukong in game 2. absolutely massive. They flexed the Talia to him in game number 1 as well to give Bradley the
Right.
Tristana matchup. Crazy good there as well. He like turns around some really close fights. He prevents some Barons by getting like random triple kills in fights that his team has already lost. He's very, very good. Like Yukino, I think gets a little overshadowed even in this conversation by his solo laners, but he is also on the come up and incredibly good, and a player I would love to see in NACL. All right, we're almost at 2 hours. Let's get to the call out. Who's making it through promotion? I've got Mirage Alliance and CCG. Sneezes, you made them your 1 and 2 earlier. Do you have enough bracket mischief that you have other teams making it through?
No, I do think it's Mirage CCG. I think my third is Ole Miss. I think just the lower bracket run for them is easier than for the top side if you have to go lower bracket as Winthrop or Blue Otter. I'm not saying Ole Miss is better than Lit. I think ranking teams in that way and a tournament structure is silly. But I think just the angle they have is good. So I just think just with the caliber of roster and staff and kind of how they're structured, I think it's hard to discount CCG as the best OQ team and Mirage is the best NACL team in this tournament. So I think that's usually a good predictor, right? Pick the best of each, and that's probably your 2 qualifiers. So I think that's what I'm going to go with. But I'm kind of hedging a little bit by hopefully not having too much egg on my face if Ole Miss prove me wrong.
Okay. Yeah,
All
I'm
right,
the
Slayer,
contrarian
drop the
again
hot
here.
take. What have you got?
Yeah, I want to hear it. I want to hear it, Slayer.
I'm leaning partly on Sneeze's logic, so let me just throw that out the first way. I'm leaning bracket craziness. I have Lit at CCG.
Ooh.
So I'm leaning
Okay.
that Lit can bounce off the fact that they'll. This is gonna come off.
So does Lit go upper? Lit wins upper
Lit goes
bracket?
upper. This only happens
okay.
if Lit wins upper, in my mind.
Gotcha.
And then I think CCG Mirage run into each other again in the lower spot, right? And I think CCG comes out in a close one there. I'm leaning on the idea that Lit can do enough with their spot, like the easiest path to that first promotion spot. And I think I'm kind of leaning on the like Cinderella, like it's Lit in the promotion tournament, guys. Like you can't, like they're a different animal. So is it partial? Is a part of me not wanting to be chalk? Yes.
So who wins the first matchup then with Mirage CCG? Because Lit has to beat one of them to qualify, right?
Yeah. I think it's Lit Mirage. And
so Lit Mirage, and then Mirage goes to lower, and then CCG goes through lower, and then beats Mirage in the rematch in the finals. That's the narrative.
Yeah, that's the fun narrative.
Okay, that'd be a that'd be a banger. That would be a banger.
Yeah, right. I know, Steezes, you haven't you haven't heard a ton of me on this podcast, or we haven't talked a ton, but I'm the guy that is a sucker for narrative leading. So I'm going to be wrong.
No, I like it.
Leading. Yeah.
Yeah. I think the case is I could see it. I don't think so, but I could see it. It's not. I don't think you're insane. I think it'd be a banger. It would be a banger for sure.
Yeah, I won't say insane, but I'm gonna be picking. I'm gonna be picking Mirage Alliance all day in those series. I'll tell you that much.
Listen, Norm, you can clown me on Twitter when it happens, right? And I will happily I'll eat a crow or whatever the saying is. But this is where I'm at.
All right. Well, make sure to tune in for that. Promotion tournament will kick off on Tuesday. I don't know the exact times. They're not updated on the LoL Esports site or anything. Even if they were, I'm sure they'd be wrong. So we'll stay tuned to, we'll retweet it on the Salt Mine Twitter. I'm sure it'll be on Path to LCS. I'm sure Grapes will be hard carrying the announcements for that as well, as it seems like half the stuff just ends up on his Twitter these days.
Thank you, Grapes.
Yeah, thank you. Shout out to Grapes. Who, by the way, the first promotion tournament primer without Grapes on it. We'll get him in here sometime soon. That's the end of a long and storied 2-split tradition, I suppose. Shout out to Grapes.
We had to bring in the relegation expert.
We did. We had to bring in Sneezes. We were gonna have in Sneezes last week, and then we had the emergency changes around where we ended up doing a 2-person episode. So all good. We'll figure out a way to get Grapes and Hawk on here sometime soon. All right, we're going to do Aegis time in a moment. That is the end of Sneezes' time here. Sneezes, thank you so much for hopping on, man. Anything you want to shout out before you head on out?
Yeah, thank you for having me. Really appreciate it. Good luck to everyone in promotion relegation. It's like the most painful tournament of the year, so hang in there, everyone. It'll be okay. I'd like to shout out my collegiate team, OC Esports. They've been really good to me. We're doing really well. We're in a couple different collegiate leagues, and if we win on Saturday, we book our ticket to nationals. So thank you, Shogo, for winning last year, for giving us 4 seats in the South. So if we make top 4, we're guaranteed minimum nationals. So appreciate it. But we're also hiring. If you check our Twitter, we have a open graduate assistant position for a head of production. So if you're a production-minded individual who wants a free master's degree, room, board, tuition, all that, reach out. We have a post up on our Twitter and on for a LinkedIn app, and we have a couple more positions coming in. So looking to boost up our staff. Just want to shout that out, get that out there. And I'm also recruiting. Obviously want to retain as many players as I can for the fall. But if you're a GM Plus player and wants to play collegiate, please DM me on Twitter. You can see it down below. So that's basically it. Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it, guys. And yeah, good luck. It'll be a banger finals.
Awesome. Thanks a bunch, Sneezes. It's been great having you, man.
Yeah, thanks, fellas.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
All right, we're back. We've subbed out Sneezes for Gromp, and we
Gromp,
are ready
Gromp,
to.
Gromp.
I mean, I'm like this. Honestly, works better than I thought it would. After doing it last week, like something about squeezing him into the box and having him like in the, within the asset. It's just funny to me. It just makes me laugh. So we're keeping him. Maybe we'll do other jungle camps in the future, but for now it's Gromp. That's the one I had. Well, Sneezes stepped away. So let's get into our Aegis breakdown. Let's go backwards again. Let's start with the Zaun group this time around. So in week number 5, University of South Florida takes a 2-0 over Briar Cliff. Aporia takes a 2-0 over Glacial Esports, and MSU A-Team take a 2-1 over Dorado Gaming in the cross group. CCG versus BlackRock Esports was rescheduled to 2 days ago, but is not in the sheet. It was a 2-0 for BlackRock.
Over CCG?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Looking like some
big
very
win there for
good
MSU.
performances from our friend Sushi and Zalt.
Gotcha. I mean,
Pacus had a 3-0-22 Melio game. Crazy.
Pocus, listen, man.
Pocus.
Pocus and
Pocus.
Pocus.
We
Sorry,
learned that.
Pocus and Sushi.
Yeah.
Are that's an underrated bottom lane down there in the ACL for sure, in my mind. Other thing though, big win for the Spartans. I mean,
yeah.
Dorado Gaming. That is that former Castleberry. Is that the Castleberry?
That is the Castleberry
roster?
team. Yes.
From top 16 finish.
Yep.
So I mean, to get a win off those guys is huge. I know for cross group it might not matter. It'll only really matter for seeding in playoffs, like you always say, Gordo. But that's definitely a good litmus test for a collegiate team we didn't know a ton about, and that's a big win.
Agree. And MSU already sitting at 3-1 in their group, so it's it's them, Aporia, and BlackRock all with 3+ wins, and then it's who out of CCG and USF are going to end up making it. They play each other week 7, so I mean that's going to be a hype matchup. I think I called this out last week too. But keep your eyes on USF versus CCG in week 7. I have it pinned as a potential match of the week because that match could very well determine who the last team making it out of the Zaun group is.
And MSU did already 2-0 USF. Okay, I was just curious how the collegiate battle in this group already went, but
yeah,
MSU established
well, and it's
himself.
an MSU is just ahead on wins, right? So they already have the 3.
Yeah.
And it's I think 3 wins is going to be the cutoff because USF is going to play cross group next week. CCG rescheduled their match for this week. They played 2 matches in 1 week at some point. They must have, because I don't see a match for them that week.
Right.
That's strange. Am I smoking something? Where the hell are all the CCG? Why does it look like CCG has 1 fewer match on this sheet than everybody else?
I don't know. I can't figure it out either.
3, 4, 5. So CCG only have 6 matches. And well, they only have 6 matches. They should have 7. Huh. What CCG match is missing? Interesting. There's 2 Glacial Esports. I think there's a typo in the sheet. Think they haven't played BlackRock?
Yes.
Yeah, there's a second Glacial Esports versus BlackRock
Yes.
match
Yeah.
on the sheet. That must be CCG versus BlackRock. Because Glacial Esports versus BlackRock.
No way, or is that CCG versus Briarcliff? Because didn't CCG and BlackRock just play this week? That's what you said.
Oh, you're
the
right.
2-0
Well,
for BlackRock.
Glacial Esports versus Briarcliff have 2 matchups. Like that, there's a 329 Briarcliff versus Glacial and a 4-5 Briarcliff versus Glacial. So you're right. It must be.
One of those must be
one of those
CCG.
teams is supposed to be CCG. Probably.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm not gonna make guesses about which one. This is not the kind of math I want to do live on pod. Point is there's some kind of typo there. There's probably an easy match win in there one way or the other, either against Briarcliff or Glacial for CCG. So CCG will probably move up to 3 wins there. They will be at 3-1 to South Florida's 2-3, and then they will play each other. So we'll see what can be done. Or they will be at 3-2 to South Florida's 2-3. And then that head-to-head will have a big influence over who makes playoffs.
Yeah.
That's the long and short of it. So that'll be an interesting one to take a look at. But yeah, looking like Zaun Group is starting to get really settled in. I'm pretty sure Briarcliff and Glacial are both out of it. I would love to see Glacial win a match. See if they can do it. Against Briarcliff would be their best chance in Week 7.
I'm curious to see if I always like to do like a next week fun matchup for a group. Aporia MSU A team will be fun. I think Aporia will win, but
I do too.
I would expect MSU to make it close with how they've been playing against opponents we consider better than them coming in.
That would be the hope. Yeah. I mean, that win over Dorado gives me a lot more hope for MSU. Like, I think so far, like, because they got 2-0'd by CCG earlier in the season. So, like, they've only really been beating up on these, bottom of the table teams that aren't really getting a lot of wins.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, that 2-1 win over Dorado Gaming is very interesting to me. And makes me really wonder what we might see from them as I almost knock my ring light over. All right. Let's get into Piltover then. Piltover week number 5. Clown Gaming take a 2-1 win over Maryville B team.
Hello.
Capuchungus lose Zora Esports, take a 2-1 over Capuchungus. The Pack take a 2-1 over Bethany. And Gravity take a 2-1 over Chaotic Solar.
Cross map, okay. That's a big win for Zora. We talked about who's really going to grab that like 4th spot in Piltover. Because Chaotic Solar have been doing pretty well. I mean, to get that win over you just said them out loud. Over Capuchungus, like that is a direct threat to playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
And they would have both been tied 2-3. They would have been tied. I think Capuchungus has an extra game somehow at least on the score. But Zora now is in a playoff spot.
Yeah, somebody else's. They haven't played their cross group.
Yeah. So, but you take away the cross group, they would have both been similar record. Now now they have a game over them in the head-to-head. So that's good because you got to watch Capuchungus a couple weeks back, right? They were on one of these matchups.
Yes, they
right.
lost.
You saw Chaotic Solar
they got
2-0
crushed by
yeah.
Chaotic Solar, but I did get to see them.
And none of us have gotten to see Zora yet, right? So
no, I don't think so.
I haven't seen them since OQ, so that's good. I mean, we always talked about this group like Clown Gaming, Maryville B. Expect them in the playoffs. Who's going to try and fill out the next 2 spots? That's a big win for Zora to try and sneak in at 4th at this current point. And I don't think they play Chaotic Solar. They already lost to them. So yeah, I mean, if they can just hold strong here up against. It's going to be tough. They have to play Clown Gaming next week, but they have a game against the Pack after that. They kind of control their destiny a lot for playoffs.
Yeah, and let's talk about the featured match really quick too. Clown Gaming with the 2-1 over Maryville. I
Big.
don't know why. Like, I couldn't even remember that we streamed that for a second. I was recovering from a real bad cold. That whole match is like a fever dream to me. But it did happen, and I'm looking through the VOD right now. I'm remembering like Zev's like sick like 1 versus 3 on the Callista and stuff to like help turn things around, and like a really big Pantheon game out of Rapid. Like, there was some really good stuff that we got to see out of Clown Gaming in that series. It's really cool that they were able to come up with the win there. Loved getting to talk with Zev after the series about that team coming together and how well they've been able to exceed expectations. Yeah, and just get a little bit more insight into like the new guys on that team, namely Cryogen and Rough Beans, and how well they have been performing as of late, which is just super, super impressive.
I think Cryogen has been on the team for a while. No, I thought he was always the duo with Zev, but down there.
He was there. He was here last split as well, but like he's like a new guy to the scene. He's like 17.
Yeah.
And,
oh, okay. Well, he's been really impressive.
I
for
agree.
Me,
I'm very excited for him. He's also I think eligible for NACL queues again in summer, so keep your eyes on that guy.
Yeah. And I remember you were talking about Rough Beans impressed you in the Hot Pocket thing, so
he impressed me here too. I think he had a really solid Vygar game. He had a pretty good what was his game number 1? He played as Oriana in game number 2. Didn't really succeed there. But I don't remember what he played game 1. I think it was like Talia or something. He had a very good game number 1. I don't remember what it was on, but I remember liking it.
I've also been a fan of Boil the Oil. I think he's been doing a good job Clown Game for a while. A lot of these guys have pretty good potential, I think, if they keep it up and keep the trajectory going, to be bigger factors in things like, qualify. Because I know we talk about it a lot, Gordo, but I feel like for a lot of these players, like the bar is like ACL's nice, but like they're trying to use it for a lot of players trying to use this to like push themselves up to the qualifier level, right? So that's always the distinction we make.
And I know Cryogen in particular is already getting looks for some of these combines that are going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. Rough Beans I have not seen his name quite as much, but I think like success here in ACL, like you said, Slayer, I think that's like that will be huge for his like visibility. I would love to see this Clown Gaming team make like a top 4 run or something, and maybe even deeper based on how some of the other things are going on in this league. We'll get to that soon. Yeah, I mean that would be awesome for them, and that would be a really cool thing to be able to highlight here.
Yeah, I also love all the people around the team as well. I think Sems is a great owner. I know he does a lot of stuff for Titan Esports, like even like running a league, and he runs a great team. And then Zygomatic, I remember her from back. She led a Divine League winning roster. I think that was the one with Nightingale on it. Whichever team that was.
Sounds right. I think of Nightingale as. I think he was on an Omega
the Death
team
Knights
at
team?
some point. And that's what I think of.
I think it was the Death Knights, like Team Death Knights Void or something.
Sounds right. Sure, I'm not gonna push back on that.
Yeah, whatever. The point is, I two great people in the scene, so them working together, Clown Gaming stonks up. Love it.
Yeah, I mean, and they're now 4-0. They top the group. Maryville B Team and Chaotic Soul are tied at 3-1. Zora Esports at 2-2, picking up 4th, and then everybody else sitting at either 1-4 or 1-3. So Gordo, I think our top 4 are pretty solidified here.
If you want another like highlight though, like for a Week 7 matchup to watch, Chaotic Solar and Maryville B team will very likely go into their matchup Week 7 with the same record.
Yep.
So I mean, it might not be for the top spot if Clown Gaming keeps up, but like they're gonna likely be playing for second.
Yep. And then I guess eyes on like the pack versus Zora, which very well may like have some influence over whether or not the pack end up making it.
Yep.
Assuming that they don't like upset Maryville B team or something in Week 6. So will be interesting
100%.
to keep an eye on. Moving on to Noxus. In week number 5, we have a 2-0 for Polestar over 5 seasons. Costa Gamers take a 2-1 over Vespa. MSU A-Team take a 2-1 over Dorado in the cross group. And UCI take a 2-0 over Novasphere. So nothing too wild there. I mean, 5 seasons are sort of in free fall. And with the addition of Polestar Academy and Dorado Gaming to the group, I no longer believe that 5 seasons will make playoffs. I guess that's kind of the news from Noxus. Because UCI is sitting up top at 5-0. They're locked. Polestar's at 3-1. Kosa's at 3-2. Dorado's at 2-2. And now 5 Seasons sitting at 1-3.
There's an outside shot.
There is. A lot of it has to do with how
Kosa
screwed
losing.
Dorado is by the record they inherited. Because they lost 2 matches very early on as a different org. They have a Vespa loss in week number 1, and they have a Kosa Gamers loss in week number 2 that I don't know they necessarily would have suffered had they had this roster. So now they find themselves having to play UCI Varsity in week 6, and then having to play Polestar Academy in week 7. They are going to have to pull out one of those wins because 5 Seasons will probably take down Vespa to get up to 2 wins, and then 5 Seasons will also get to play Kosa Gamers, where they also have an opportunity to win. So that'll make things a little bit closer.
Yeah, if 5 Seasons can get their game difference up a bit here, like if they could 2-0, their week here, and then it would be close, but they'd have like an outside shot of being able to take 4th from Kosa, depending on. But there's also obviously the Dorado stuff you're talking about.
Yep.
I just like to quickly say, like, for 5 Seasons, like, a lot of young hype around it, but like really young. So I just hope that
and also like tons of roster issues too, right? Like they've been
tons of
players
roster
around
issues.
to different positions and getting guys in and out and in and out. So
yeah, I just like holistically, like especially for guys like for like Season of Leaves, you know, the super challenge, like. It's hard to, as a young person, to take it of that value, but I hope at some point he understands that, like, this was mostly for the experience, you know, and like.
Well, it's also like CK Reborn wasn't on this team to start it off, Animosity wasn't on this team to start it off, so like now they're like way newer than anybody else in the league. Like it's a tough position to be in to like keep having this like turnover when you are a team that is like this is your like. Your like first competition, right? Like you're not, you know, like the teams like you think about, you know, teams more like Polestar Academy or Team Fish Taco or whatever. Like they'll turn over players week in, week out. They don't care, you know. Like guys will get busy and they'll call in, you know, one of their friends who also is like regularly making top 16 OQs and like, you know, I don't remember who it is. Is it Cerulean's Kittens or Abandoned Kittens? It's Cerulean's Kittens. Is like calling in Robbie Bob as a sub. And it's like, that is not the situation you're in this 5 Seasons, right? You're like, you know, you're bringing in players with similarly low levels of experience, like just trying to like get yourself your wins. That's just hard, you know. That's hard for any team in any league. It's especially hard in this league when some of your competition is like guys who are like actively working to go pro and taking like substantive steps to get there and like have all of the competitive accomplishments and pedigree to come along with that.
Yeah. My whole point was just to like, especially Season of Leaves, like you're gonna have so many cracks at the ACL. Like hopefully you're just, you know, using the ACL.
It's not his first crack either. He didn't do too great last split either. So yeah, I mean, best of luck. Just keep working on it. Shout out to Quest for putting this team together. And I mean, again, it's not over yet. Like, I really do not actually mean to be like eulogizing this team because they do, like, they could take the win over Vespa here and they could sneak into playoffs. They could definitely, or the win over Kosa too. Like, not even have to deal with tiebreaker math against Dorado. Super possible.
The segue here. 1, UCI Dorado Gaming is the feature matchup next week. That's a heater. So that'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I don't know who I'm casting that with yet. I got to figure that out because TDS won't be there, and you won't be there either.
I started a new job, so PST Gaming screws me a little bit there because like a lot of the times I'm not gonna get done with the workday before the casts are like needed for me. So, but it'll be fun. Whoever you get that with. The one thing I was gonna say about this group is I really just wish that we didn't get the UCI Polestar FF because of the whole situation, you know, with the former team. But like, it did also deprive us of not getting to see Polestar and UCI play because I unfortunately outside of maybe Dorado getting this win this week, think that Polestar Academy are the only team that could really step up to UCI in this group.
Agree. So might have to wait for playoffs to see who can step up to UCI. But yeah, they're just running this group for right now for sure. They're running their group in CLOL as well. They've been on a tear lately. Yeah, so this is a team I'm excited for playoffs to see if they can kind of defend their title from this time last year. But see how they do against Dorado. It'll be a fun match. And
100%.
yeah, if they win, maybe we'll. Well, man, TDS won't be there, but like TDS and I like talked to Light Pulse like 4 times last year, so we'll see. Maybe we'll talk to Light Pulse again. See, check in with our
Hey,
boy.
Man.
See
How you
he's
been?
doing. Is him and Alorum are official friends of the desk because they've both been on teams that have won ACL, and they have both had like 4 weeks in a row where they've come on post-match interview because other teammates didn't want to. So someday we'll get them both on at the same time. It'll be fun.
I think our universe will fold onto itself if that happens, actually.
Yeah. So we'll see. Maybe that reunion. Stay tuned for that. Check out the stream to find out if that happens. Demacia as our final group. This past week, Abandoned Kittens take a 2-0 over Team Fish Taco off a forfeit. Next Level Esports take a 2-1 over Interstellar Yappers. Cerulean's Kittens take a 2-1 over Shaboing Boing. And in the cross group, Gravity take a 2-1 over Chaotic Solar, which is actually pretty notable. That's like very meaningful to me. Like that, as 2 teams that I think both are kind of
They're like the
overperforming
surpriser
expectations.
ones.
Yeah, Gravity being able to win over Chaotic Solar, I think, is huge.
Yeah, I think I'll officially stamp Gravity as the last year as like the fun to watch team, because last year was Clown Gaming, like that run they made was sick. Gravity's now that team. I maybe I'll name that award something silly someday, but I just for now that's what I'm calling it.
Yeah, it's the fun to watch award. That's fair.
Yeah, and then
yeah, Gravity very likely to make playoffs. Although this group is still super competitive. Like 4-1 for Cerulean's Kittens, 3-1 for Abandoned Kittens, 3-1 for Gravity, 2-2 for TFT, 2-2 for Shaboing Boing, 1-3 Next Level Esports, and then Interstellar Yappers are out of the race at 0-5.
Yep.
So, I guess this is like
a lot could shake up.
Yeah, and I mean the tough question is like I haven't heard anything official on this either way, but like the forfeit for Team Fish Taco is not a good sign to me.
No.
That these guys are still chilling after bombing out of NACL qualifiers. I hope that's not the case, but if they are, that makes this group like a little wide open. That means maybe Shaboing Boing end up in playoffs. That's pretty wild. Or it gives Next Level the opportunity to kind of make their move there. They play Abandoned Kittens this week, and then they will play Next Level, or they will play Shaboing Boing in week 7, which would make that game also a big qualification match.
True. It's funny when I look at like the subs on some of these Demacia group teams. There's like you pointed out that like Robbie Bob subbed in for Ceruleans. They now have Forsen. It was Forsen always there. I just noticed Forsen was a sub for Ceruleans.
I don't know if he's always been there, but yeah, he's there.
And the funnier one though is the other kids squad, Abandoned Kids. I technically have a Nori B listed as a substitute now, a Nori Boob, which would be really crazy for my brand if I saw a Nori Boob and Samikin play on the same team.
Dude,
that would be crazy.
You know what I just noticed on this thing is we've been complaining all season long about how Ben Guy's account name is Steel City Warrior. Steel City Warrior has renamed his account name to Low Jazz.
To Low Jazz, yeah.
I hate these guys.
Just does that. It's so funny.
I don't know. It is very funny, but come on, stop doing this.
Damn. You know the worst part about Nori Boob being a sub on Abandoned Kids is like, I'd love to see him and Samikin play on a team together, but I don't want it to be this team because I hope is Devin. He used to be We Hope. I'm really high on Devin as a future.
Devin and
AD
Phantom Star have been great as a duo too. I've been very impressed with them. Yeah.
Like I expect like very near future top 16 finish if those two end up on the right team of a qualifier. So I'm trying to remember which team they were. Because I was talking to Samkin about it. They were in the last qualifier. Yeah. I'm looking very quickly.
I know this.
Were they ranked top 16?
I don't think they quite snuck in this time.
Oh, they were. It was
They were
still
in
Abandoned
spring.
Kittens.
Was it Abandoned Kittens?
No, yeah. So it was. Yeah, I forgot. It was this entire. It's this roster without Samikin. I'm an idiot.
Correct.
So it's this roster without Samikin.
Yeah,
they
they
had,
were Abandoned Kittens there too. So yeah,
they
they
had
played. They
Riverside
just didn't
in.
make top 16 in spring, or in spring number 2 rather.
Damn, I actually would have expected that roster to have made top 16, but that's unfortunate.
Yep, they had a close run. I think which game did I cast? I think I cast one of them. Must not have because they never played Lotus, but
they
yeah,
lost.
They lost
their
to Nameless in game 5, in round 5, which I would not have expected.
And Gordo, if they'd won that game, they would have backdoor fallen into a top 12 qualification because of Fly Family. Dang.
Yeah.
Well,
and by that you mean they would have made top 8 over Gentle Hearts, right?
I mean, they would have put up a better fight than Nameless. I mean,
very possibly.
Yeah, Devin versus Anori Boob. We got deprived of that. Damn. All right.
That's all right. Teammates facing off yet again.
Yeah. I'm sure they'll be facing each other a lot.
The up and coming substitute Anori B takes on the starter.
Yes. Yes, the up and coming Anori Boob.
Yep.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Not the What did BlackRock finish in the first qualifier? Third, fourth?
The 8th. It's 5th through 8th because they didn't make it past.
Oh.
That's why they kind of split up.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. They didn't make top 4. That's why they
Anori B still already
slammed
made
the
top
emergency
8, though,
button and went their separate ways.
Yeah. All right. Now, enough segueing though.
I mean, the only thing we're segueing into is the closeout. So
yeah,
Demacia standings. I mean, I hope Team Fish Taco keeps playing. I love to see this team around here. And TFT still have not actually won an ACL title despite playing here last split. They were my favorites to win last time, and they didn't do it. Didn't even make the final. They ended 3rd. So I would have loved to see this team continue to run it. Especially, I mean, against this field, it's like it would have been winnable for them. And it's a fat chunk of change if you're able to take it. So TFT squad, if you're listening and your decision isn't locked in, play it out, guys. Come on. You already paid your entry fee and your FF deposit. Get in there. Come and play. If they don't, though, this group gets crazy. And playoffs get really crazy. Because, I mean, at that point, then, you know, like, if I would say TFT, assuming they keep playing, are the hard favorites to win. But if they are no longer in, then I think this becomes a lot more open of a tournament.
Yeah, I think I still think both these kitten squads are good enough for deep runs. So it'll be fun to see where they end up on the brackets. Both kitten squads are good enough
for deep runs. I think Pulse and UCI are good enough for deep runs. Like Dorado Gaming's interesting in there.
Is Clown might be good for a deep run now.
Yeah,
I
Clowns,
guess maybe.
Like, I mean, who knows? Like, Gravity's taking games off of good teams. I agree with Clown. Maryville's a legitimate threat, but I mean, they just lost to Clown.
Kinda.
Aporia's a team that deserves attention. BlackRock is a team that deserves attention. This is, this could have like 6+ teams that are all very, very competitive and, without a really solid call out on who's going to win it. So, I mean, the league's starting to heat up as we get into the last couple of weeks, Slayer, is what I'm trying to say.
Yep. And it will be absolute fire. 8 p.m. Friday. The day this drops, or the day after this drops. UCI,
the day this
Dorado.
Drops. This isn't dropping tomorrow. This is dropping Friday.
Oh, yeah. That sounds very true. As you're watching this, twitch.tv.
We've been recording for 3 hours, Slayer. I'm going to have to trim this. Tomorrow I'm trimming this shit down. It's not coming out like this.
Well, this is probably not making it then. Yeah. Never mind.
This part can
tell
make
them
it.
to go to Twitch.
I just gotta
go to Twitch. Aegis Esports, UCI, Dorado Gaming.
Yeah, tune in tonight for Dorado Gaming, UCI, and then next week, I mean, we'll have some hype playoff qualification related match, and then it's playoffs time, baby. So get excited.
All mine's gonna get all Aegis oriented.
all Aegis oriented. Yeah, we are about to have some Aegis oriented episodes. I mean, we'll do more on promotion next week, but after that, it's going to be all Aegis all the time. So
Until we get to rosters.
yeah, that'll be fun. All right, but that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you, everybody who stuck on with us for this long. Shout out again to Sneezes for hanging out with us for the first
And Gromp.
2/3 of the episode, and for Gromp for subbing in
And
for
Gromp.
the last 1/3. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks so much.